All right, good morning, Joint Appropriations Committee. We'll start with roll call.
Representative Henderson. Representative Larson.
Excused. He's on Zoom.
He's on Zoom. Representative Sherwood.
Here.
Representative Stith.
Here.
Representative Walters. Here. Representative Zwaniter Dave.
Here.
Senator Anderson.
Here.
Senator Guru.
Here.
Senator Kinski.
Here.
Senator Salazar.
Here.
Co-Chairman Nicholas. Madam Chairman.
Here.
Madam Chairman, you have a quorum.
Wonderful. All right, committee, we will go ahead and start with working our budgets this morning. Mr. Richards, if you could remind us what agency we are on.
Madam Chairman, you have a couple of introductory comments if acceptable.
Please
You're
do.
on agency 57. If for those of you grabbing your books, you skipped that yesterday. That's the Wyoming Community College Commission. Oftentimes, staff provide an update as to your actions from the previous day. And net, you have reduced your appropriations by 6.6 million. So that $37 million magic number of available funds has grown to $43.6 million. That comes about from a couple of large changes. First off, the reduction in the Secretary of State's for their enterprise system, a reduction of $5 million for local governments, and a reduction or transfer in 048 for the preschool ECA from general funds to school foundation program funds. Those savings are offset in large part by increases in the Department of Health related to the Medicare clawback and comprehensive waiver and postpartum. So those are the main highlights from yesterday's action. We did, upon review of all of the amendments, we had one request for a clarification. I don't think it requires opening up the budget, but in the state engineer's office, I believe Representative Walters had a series of 5 amendments associated with that. And some of the numbers were operating under not the numbers maybe said, but the total general fund in those 4 units were transferred to water. And I think sometimes the number stated was in the standard budget column rather than the total budget column. And we just wanted to clarify the intent behind that.
That is correct. The total budget column was what was the intent.
And Madam Chairman,
Representative Walters.
I apologize, Madam Chairman.
Are you okay?
Madam Chairman, as staff stated, that was the correct intent, was the total value.
Representative Stith.
Madam Chairman, Don, I was hoping we'd get credit for the reducing the $20 million from the governor's contingency fund. Is that just a wash? Do we not get credit for that reduction?
Mr. Richards.
Madam Chairman, Representative Stith, unfortunately, there is no difference in the available fund. It's still $20 million available for public welfare.
But it felt good doing it. Thank you, Representative Stith.
With that, Madam Chairman, if you wish to proceed with the next agency in order, it is Agency 57, the Wyoming Community College Committee.
Let's do so. Senator Guru.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Could I ask Don, could you kind of give us a little sketch of how you see today? You guys.
Madam Chairman, certainly it's subject to the committee and the direction of the chair, but the posted agenda includes working the budgets for approximately 2.5, 3 hours, something like that. Then you have 2 additional items in the morning before lunch: consideration of the High Plains Research Station and Arboretum legislation. That's LSO 357. And I should inquire whether or not you want LSO attorney who is not on this committee to present it, or whether the sponsors will present that legislation.
So, Madam Chair, ready. We don't need to have a walkthrough of the bill.
Thank you. In addition, the Stable Token Commission is scheduled immediately before lunch. After lunch, I believe there are representatives from the Executive Office of the Governor, I presume the Chief of Staff, or potentially Rennie and Erica, on the ARPA letter, which all of you should have received last night, if not last night in your inbox this morning. That's Governor's letter number 16. And then the University of Wyoming is scheduled for a callback primarily on the energy matching funds. Some research in the area of carbon sequestration and enhanced oil recovery. After their presentation, let's say 2:30 or 3 o'clock, the agenda is relatively open. The committee could discuss ARPA. They could return to agencies. You will not finish up this morning. Or you could take up other items such as capital construction or governor's letters or the like.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Any other questions for Mr. Richards? Also about what we did yesterday? All right, thank you. So whenever you're ready, Mr. Richards, we'll start with Agency 57, Community Colleges.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. The first unit for the committee's consideration appears on page 42, Unit 101, Administration. And there are some policy questions just to remind the agent or the committee of the discussion or proposal that the commission presented to you. The governor rejected a number of requests in this unit totaling right at $1 million. And just for your memory, they proposed as an alternative to approve the governor's request using reversions rather than general funds. So I just bring that to your attention.
Senator Kinski.
And Madam Chair, I'd move that we restore each of those IT projects that they listed, and it comes to a grand total of $912,237. And they requested that they be allowed to do that out of the reversions. I guess I'm not all that comfortable with it typically, but I'd be okay with it in this instance, or else we can just take the reversions back and then reallocate the funding. But the funding is for some pretty important stuff. It's this transfer, credit transfer they've worked out amongst the community colleges and the University of Wyoming. It's SLEDs. I don't know how many folks are familiar with SLEDs, but that's that longitudinal educational data that the feds require that answers the question, are we really getting our money's worth out of when the high school sends the kids to the college? Are they adequately prepared? When the college gets them, are they able to remediate them or train them in a way that the university can really use them? Of those that get CTE credits, do they stay here in the state? How much do they earn? That is an enormously important project that is just now ready to really be able to answer policy questions from folks like us. So SLED server, tech replacement, those things, I'm not sure why that got denied en masse, but that's all pretty important stuff I'd like to see restored to their budget. So I'd move that we restore each of those. I think there's 7 or 8 of them, and the grand total is $912,237. For purposes of the motion, I'd say allow them to do it out of their reversion.
Second.
All right, that was seconded by Senator Garou. Discussion on the motion.
Madam Chairman.
Representative Walters.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Just for clarification, would this funding include paying Gillette College's share of any of these?
You know, I'd have to have staff walk us through what each of these are. I think the Gillette College thing is a different line. And I don't know that that's one of these lines.
Priority 4 is located on what page, Co-Chairman Nicholas?
I'm looking at the exceptions request, but it's.
Yeah, it is page 30.
Well, there are 2 different numbers, I believe. So, Don, could you walk us through, Madam Co-Chair, could you walk us through the senator's motion so we can kind of click on and parse this out?
Mr. Richards.
Madam Chairman, Representative, Mr. Co-Chairman, I believe the 912,237 is comprised of priority number 6, the YO transfers in the amount of $134,352. Number 7, the SLEDs request for $229,800. That's priority number 7.
So in my book, number 7 is the SLEDs for 934,000. No, I'm sorry, that's priority.
So priority number 7 looks like sleds, which is on page 33 and 34. And that total is 934, 352.
Yes, I believe there are 2 requests for that. Some ongoing requests, and I think the agency indicated that they have submitted a federal grant application and are hoping to cover approximately $800,000 of this amount with other funds. So when they recognized this item was denied, I think they collectively came back with a reduced alternative within their available reversion number. So that they're not replacing the entirety of all of their requests, if that makes sense. They're reducing the amount they're requesting.
Basically by a grant of $800,000+.
They are requesting restoration of priority number 8, which is Tableau. The request for that item is $53,560. They're also requesting restoration of priority number 9, IT training and services, in the amount of $150,240.
So that went up by 100,000.
Requesting restoration of item number 10, IT licensing and storage, for $18,000.
So you're looking at something that I don't have.
It's the budget book.
Well, no, I have the budget book.
He's just going through the priorities in the book.
Yeah, but not the new numbers.
You are, Madam Chairman, Co-Chairman Nicholas, you are correct. The agency sent over a request based upon individual legislators saying, hey, I'm interested in funding this from reversions. How would it look? I'm using their email.
Okay, so I presume that was probably forwarded to us. I just don't know where it's located.
We'll try to forward that to the entire committee.
So going back to Senator Kinski's motion, Senator Kinski, are you still comfortable with your motion, or do you want?
I am. I've got a breakout here from staff. I apologize. So let me give it. Here's what I have. And Don, tell me if I'm doing this right. Priority 6, $320,000 is what I have. YO transfer number 7, $134,352. Sleds priority 8, $229,800. Tableau, $53,560 one time. I believe Tableau. I believe is that priority number 9, Don? Yes. Tableau. IT training and services, $150,240. That's priority number 10.
So this is licensing and storage capacity, not IT training. 2 different things.
Okay, I have IT licensing and storage.
So that's the 150?
Yeah, priority number 10 is information technology licensing and storage capacity for 150, found on page 37 and 38 in the budget book.
Don, is that what you have? This draft I've got here is a little bit chopped up.
That's forwarding the email to all members.
Okay.
Thank you.
So we'll take a minute and let Senator Kinski go back to his motion before anyone jumps in, since it's Senator Kinski's motion, and have him reformulate. Mr. Richards?
In the interest of time, there's one other item that maybe we can jump ahead on, and that relates to a similar issue. That's the sleds issue. Yesterday, the JAC took out $1,329,714 from the Department of Family Services request, and you asked us to notify you to potentially restore that one time in this budget.
Madam Chairman,
Representative Walters?
it's probably procedurally out of place to make a motion to do that since we already have a motion on the table
Senator Kinsky, do you want to table your motion, come back to it?
Certainly, I'll table my motion.
Or we'll not table it, but withdraw the motion, we'll come
I'll
back.
withdraw the motion.
Representative Walters?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I would move to include in this budget 1,100,000, or the number that staff just stated, for sleds to do the preschool sleds data information collection that was discussed in Department of Family Services, and we will put it in this budget. If I get a second on this motion.
That has been moved and seconded. Further discussion. Does everyone understand the motion?
Clarification.
Senator Kinsky?
What I remember the discussion is it's housed in DFS now. It would have to be transitioned to the college commission's servers. Is that the intent, or to keep it at DFS, but put the budget with the community college commission?
Representative Walters?
Madam Chair, the intent is to move this all into Community College Commission, because it was housed temporarily at DFS. And this is probably the more appropriate place to have this, so that the data can then align with the data that SLEDS is already collecting. And so this is probably a better fit altogether.
And Madam Chair, and I agree, Representative Walters. So the budget that DFS has is for maintenance of it is as it is, where it is. Does this amount contemplate the amount that's going to be necessary to transition the data over to WCCC? Because I think there are going to be some work to make it fit. They're on different platforms. Does this include the transition expense?
Representative Walters?
Madam Chairman, I don't know that it includes the transition expense, but I think it's an adequate amount to get them started. And if they need to come back in a supplemental session to ask for a little bit more because they recognize that there were some hurdles that we didn't anticipate, I think that would be certainly
Okay.
appropriate, but I think this gets it on the right track and moving in the right direction.
Fair enough.
Further discussion?
So Mr.
Mr. Richards?
Could a sponsor clarify if it's one time or ongoing?
Madam Chairman?
Go ahead.
Madam Chairman, it would be one time as DFS had requested, similar to, or identical to the request in DFS.
Chairman
Doing it
Nicholas?
here.
So Don, my understanding is that SLED's program is being used, the existing program would have to be used for the DFS component of it. So I don't know if it's really a transition in so much as in terms of the computer programming component, but I would like to understand that. So could we get some clarification from DFS and or community colleges on that mechanism? Because we are funding SLEDs it's not a cheap program. And theoretically that those probably be funds already available, or it's already in place to accomplish this and tie those networks in together, whether it's at DFS or at community colleges. So we just need to understand that.
Okay, further discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? That motion has passed. Senator Kinsky?
So I would move for the funding of certain elements of the college's IT needs that were denied, as outlined in the email we now have dated Tuesday, December 19th. And it goes through each of the priorities, how much money is being requested for each of the priorities, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. And gives a little bit more narrative as to why, rather than the full 900 on SLEDs, they're asking for a lesser amount. And to do that out of their healthcare reversion.
And Senator Grew, do you second that again?
I do. I just want to make sure, are you moving the essential or the requested amount?
I'm moving the requested amount, which I
That's what
think
thought. Okay.
So-
Yeah.
comes to 932.
The email provided by Mr. Swank from the Community College Commission has been passed out and is on your desks. That outlines, I think, all those priority requests that Senator Kinsky is now moving.
Madam Co-Chair.
Co-Chairman Nicholas?
So I see the 9-12-237. Is that the number?
That's the number.
Correction, the column I'm moving is under essential funding, the gray shaded area, which sums to 912-237 with course sharing.
So the motion is to restore $912,237 based on the priority exceptions of 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. with those new figures for each one of those priorities as identified in the email that's on your desks. That motion has been seconded by Senator Guru. Discussion on the motion. Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion has passed. Anything else on Unit 101, Mr. Richards?
Awesome staff.
All those in favor of Governor's rec, say aye.
Aye.
As amended? Well, all those in favor of Unit 101 as amended, say aye.
Aye.
I did that correctly, correct? All right.
There's one. Thank you.
Members of the committee, the next unit for your consideration appears on page 48, Unit 201, colleges, the state aid.
Page number again, please.
Mr. Chair, Madam Chairman, Mr. Co-Chairman, it's on page 48. And this one does have a staff question or a request for direction on page 47. You will see the governor's direction to approve $4 million in inflation costs for the colleges. And then with the caveat, whose districts did not see an increase in revenue for the college sufficient to cover their increased costs. I'm not.
Madam Chairman.
Representative Stith,
Madam Chairman, I would move to delete the phrase at the colleges whose district did not see an increase in revenues for the college district sufficient to cover their increased costs from the narrative.
has been moved and seconded. Does everyone understand the motion? Mr. Hibbard?
Madam Chairman, the way that we looked at the model is that if you put money into the community colleges, then the model, this would happen. If you don't put it in there, then the higher assessed value colleges would have to trickle down to the lower assessed. If you simply put the money into the model, then the higher assessed value will not get theirs taken down when they balance the model. So that's how our thought process on this.
Representative Stith?
Madam Chairman, and I think the governor's office is not appreciating how the funding model works for the community colleges. That is, the Community College Commission doesn't touch the local revenues at all. They've got this funding formula that they use. And so if the inflation, whatever the inflation number is, whatever that is, that gets put into the funding model, and then the funding model trickles down to the colleges. So Western, for example, gets less state aid because it has higher local revenues. And that's a funding model that's been agreed upon and adopted by the commission rule. And so I think if we leave this language in, it will create a distortion, because it would tend to give no inflation adjustment to those.
Madam Chairman.
It would tend to give an inflation adjustment to those colleges where the property values did not go up as much. And so that's not reality. I think this tinkers with the formula in a way that it is unnecessary.
Director Hibbard?
Madam Chairman, I'm not asking to overturn Representative Sith's motion. I'm just trying to get to the point that if we put the money into the community colleges, that the expectation, and I believe that it will, flow to those lower assessed value colleges. That's the message that we want to say, that's what we're attempting to do. I think that does happen. I think we're in agreement to that by just putting the money into the model.
So, Madam Co-Chair.
Co-Chairman Nicholas?
So the language that you have in here is not directing them in a specific manner. You're just saying that it needs to be allocated proportionately and good, without a demand or a directive to do so.
Madam Chair,
Director Hibbard?
that's correct.
So Madam Chair, what I'm hearing is the language is unnecessary then. The model already does it.
Yes, but that's not what the language says. The language says that, so when I read it, I deny $4 million for inflation costs at the colleges whose districts did not see an increase in revenues. Therefore, the districts who saw an increase in revenues will not receive $4 million. So they're already outside of the formula when you're calculating the distribution of the formula, because they don't get to be included because they saw an increase in their revenues. So if the governor wants $4 million in inflation costs to go to those districts, then the recommendation should just say that. And it goes outside of the formula. And it needs to be some type of just direct distribution to those institutions for the purposes of inflation costs, instead of trying to push that back into the formula, is my thought, not being an expert on the formula and how it works on the backside. So Representative Stith, your thoughts about that?
Madam Chairman, I think that the language and the narrative here just creates distortion. And I think why mess with the formula? I mean, we can debate the merits of the formula one way or the other, but this creates an almost unworkable arrangement. It would be extremely complicated for the colleges to even figure out what it means.
So does the committee want to provide inflationary costs to districts who did not see an increase in revenue? Is the question.
Well, Madam Chair, go back to the motion. If you can either adopt the amendment, and that fixes the problem, so we don't.
I don't think that it does, Co-Chairman Nicholas. Representative Stith, because Representative Stith, what's your motion?
Madam Chairman, my motion was to delete the language that begins with, delete the phrase, at the colleges whose districts did not see an increase in revenues for the college district sufficient to cover their increased costs. Just delete that phrase. And what would remain is the governor's recommendation would be to approve $4 million for inflation costs, period.
Which goes to all the colleges, which goes into the funding formula.
Correct.
So who wants
Madam
to?
Chair,
Senator
you
Pinsky?
may want to modify that because the first three words are I deny as submitted,
Correct, yeah.
but approve. The whole thing, we're messing with a formula and a footnote. It's just, the whole thing's got to go.
Senator Salazar?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I'm confused, Representative Stith. Does the 4 million go to the 4 colleges or to all of them?
Representative
Madam
Smith.
Chairman, so it's my understanding of how this formula works is that this $4 million, if my amendment's adopted, the $4 million goes to the Community College Commission, and then it gets distributed out to the 7 community colleges. And the colleges that have, under the formula, the colleges that have less local revenue, say Eastern Wyoming Community College, for example, tends to have less local revenue than Western Wyoming Community College. So of that $4 million, Eastern Wyoming Community College would get on a per capita, per student basis would get more. That's just the funding formula. And so essentially this $4 million just goes into an addition to the state aid portion, to be honest. And I think that's just the simplest way to do it, because the districts, for example, like Western, that have more local revenues, you know, they can make up the difference. I think it's just simpler to do it this way. If we don't have the amendment, the problem that it says is that this phrasing is really awkward as drafted, in my view, because it doesn't say that, because every district had some increase in their local revenues, right? Every one of them did. But this says if your increase was not more than your increased costs, well, how do you calculate that, right? You'd have to calculate each individual increased cost for each individual university, compare it to their increase, and there would just be this big food fight there at the Community College Commission of who gets the money. And I think to avoid this chaos, it's just simpler to delete the phrase and then have this $4 million distributed according to the formula. It's just far simpler.
Further discussion on Representative Stith's motion? All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? That motion has passed. Senator Kinsky?
Don, can you read back to me what remains of the language from the governors after that amendment? How does it read now?
Senator Kinsky, Madam Co-Chair, you have added $4,012,505 to the traditional state aid model.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Senator Kinsky?
I have an amendment. The colleges asked for 16 million $50,021. The governor cut 3/4 of that, or 12 million of it. I would move to restore to their original request the additional $12,037,516, which would bring the total to their original request with the 4 million already improved to $16,050,021.
Second?
Second.
Seconded by Guru. Further discussion? Interesting. Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
That motion has passed. Further discussion on Unit 201. All those in favor of Unit 201 as amended, say aye.
Madam Chairman,
Representative Stith?
I have an amendment on the grant payments, code 626, and this is a revenue neutral amendment. In that and the amendment would be to increase the amount by $10 million from funds that were previously appropriated in connection with the multipurpose facility in Teton County that was paid for with ARPA funds, but was backstopped by general funds. It's my understanding that the ARPA funds were used and that the general fund remains appropriated from prior legislative action. And that the purpose of this fund, this $10 million, there would be a footnote that would say this would be used for matching grants for the community colleges, with a proviso that each college would get $1 million and that the remaining balance of it would be subject to a competitive process.
Madam Chair, for clarification.
Clarification, Representative Walters?
Thank you, Madam Chair. When you say $1 million for each college, would you include Gillette College as being eligible for that $1 million?
Representative Stith?
Madam Chairman, I don't believe that Gillette's eligible for it because of the 4 mil requirement. So no, unless it is eligible. I mean, if I'm not against Gillette College, I just don't know that it's lawful to do that.
Madam Chairman.
Representative Walters?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I would amend this amendment to specifically state that Gillette College would be eligible for 1 million as all the other colleges, and also be eligible for the competitive funds available.
And Madam Chairman, I regard that as a friendly amendment if it's consistent with applicable law,
We are the.
regardless.
Madam Chair.
Senator Guru?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm gonna make sure that I understand motion because you're at what you said about the general fund dollars we set aside for
Teton County.
sorry, CWC, just popped out of my head. For CWC Jackson, is true. We did use ARPA dollars and we're very happy about that. I was hoping that we could keep $1 million aside of that appropriation of general fund dollars as we finish. We're still just getting into the ground. I know I said that we were shovel ready 2 years ago, but construction goes the way it does, but we're just starting to get in the ground now. And I anticipate that we'll have costs at the end. And since that money was appropriated out of general funds and we won't have time to go back for any more ARPA money, I don't believe. I was hoping to at least keep that $1 million of that in that appropriation. So I don't know if you'd regard that as a friendly amendment, just to drop it to 9 million, 9 point whatever million it was, but
Madam Chair.
Senator
Perhaps-
Kinski?
Perhaps that it's used for that purpose, but if not used, then it goes to set aside 1 million of it for finishing up the center, and if not used, it goes towards his motion.
What about the remainder ARPA funds as well?
Madam Chairman, I would regard that as a friendly amendment with the proviso that Senator Kinski mentioned.
and that would be terrific. And if we can pursue another avenue to get that, I'd be more than happy then to reallocate that $1 million right back to.
Does everyone understand the motion as amended twice? and seen as friendly, including LSO. Mr. Richards?
Members of the committee, if I could benefit from restating the motion to ensure that we have captured the accurate concepts. Representative Stith is moving to appropriate $10,335,478 from SIPA, with $1 million retained by the Jackson Outreach Center and moving $9,335,478 to a pot from which each of the 8 community colleges would receive $1 million, and the balance, including any unexpended funds on the Jackson Outreach Center, would be available for a competitive pool.
Madam Chairman, my words exactly.
Mm,
It
Madam
was,
Chair-
it was brilliant.
Madam Chairman,
Representative Stiff,
Madam Chairman.
Representative Walters.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. And for clarification's sake, this is for matching purposes, correct?
Representative Stiff for matching.
Yes.
Mr. Richards for matching. Everyone understand the motion. Further discussion, Co-Chairman Nicholas.
Thank you. And so my understanding is that the way we've done these in the past is you have a time frame to get the matching. And if you don't, the money reverts. And those money are available to the other colleges for additional matching. Is that part of the motion?
It is not part of the motion, but are you asking it to be part of the motion?
Madam Chairman, those are my thoughts exactly. That's perfect.
What is the time frame, Co-Chairman Nicholas?
Don, usually it's within a year, I think a calendar year, but whatever.
Madam Chairman, I believe it's been 2 different ones. I think once they had as long as 4 years to do it. I think there might have been a shorter period of 2 years, but that's certainly your discretion, whatever.
I think 2 years would be fine.
Representative
years.
Smith
Madam
seconds
Chairman,
the
2
2
years.
years with a 2. Senator Kinsky? Nope. All right, does everyone understand this motion? Seeing head nods for the
Madam
discussion?
Chairman.
Senator Anderson?
Madam Chairman, did we move and second 2 years? I don't like that 2 years. Those community colleges have a hard time getting a match for $1 million. It might take them the 4 years.
Representative Stith saw it as friendly, and so a second is not required.
Madam Chairman, 4 years is fine.
Okay, thank you.
Ooh. I don't support the 4 years.
Let's have a discussion on the 4 years.
So we're going to vote on the motion in general, and then we're going to do a second motion without the year stipulation, and then we'll have a discussion on that. So does everyone understand what I'm proposing? So Representative Stiff, Co-Chairman Nicholas withdraws the motion
Withdraw.
to amend the motion associated with the year requirement to match. And we're just going to vote on the motion in total to help kind of clear this up and take this bit by bit. So all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, Co-Chairman Nicholas.
I would move to on the previous motion and to the matching funds, and matching funds have to be committed within 2 years.
Second,
Second.
moved by Co-Chairman Nicholas, seconded by Senator Kinsky.
Discussion.
Discussion on the 2 years. Senator Guru.
And try to split the baby here. I agree with the 2 years and support the motion for the motion. To those of you who think that that's not enough time, what I would suggest is that we do a 2 year. Because I don't like it. I agree if some can raise faster, some raise slower. But then we revisit this issue in 2 years before the deadline. And if we need to extend, we could extend it then. And then just, and I'm sure we'll hear from our friends at the community colleges about any adjustments that need to be made. But I agree with the bringer of the motion. It's putting it out for 4 years and that money's just going to sit. If it, so that I do like the idea of just 2 years and we keep a close handle on it. So.
Further discussion on the 2 years, Senator Representatives. All right, seeing none,
So as I understand the motion, it's $1 million per college, right?
correct?
And so if we just do 2 years, the money's just going to sit there. The whole point is to get the colleges out to aggressively pursue and to market and to find the money. And remember that all the smaller colleges are benefiting this a lot more than the big colleges because they got smaller budgets, so $1 million means a lot more to them. So I think they need to get out, they get into work, and if they can't raise the money, then other colleges that can actually go get the funds should have the opportunity to then go use it and compound their money because if they can do it. Thank you.
Madam Co-Chair,
Senator Kinsky.
I appreciate Senator Anderson's sentiment. And of course, we won't have any problem in Casper or Sheridan matching it. But over the years, I've had conversations with Senator Steinmetz about Eastern's capacity to match, and there's surprising amount of generosity in that community. They've been able to come up with their matches, and it's from sources that you wouldn't guess, but they've been pretty successful in raising match. So I think they'll be able to do it, and if not, they'll be back here telling us they need more time. But I'll bet Eastern gets it committed within a year.
Sensing you're ready to vote. All those in favor of 2 years, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Right, that motion has passed. Further amendments to Unit 201.
I have a question.
Senator Kinsky?
For all the time Senator Guru has put into that outreach center, are they going to name the kitchens for you, or at least a walk-in, the Mike Guru walk-in cooler?
I'm sure there'll be a small plaque probably in the garage, living area or a bath.
All right. All those in favor of Unit 201 as amended, say aye.
Aye.
The next unit for your consideration appears on page 61, Unit 202, College Health Insurance. Page 51.
We're on page 51, committee. All those in favor of the governor's rec, say aye. All those in favor of Unit 202, say aye. Is that it? Do I need to do that? Nope. I'm closing. Moving on.
The next unit for your consideration appears on page 54, Unit 204, Library Funding.
All those in favor of governor's rec, say aye.
Aye.
The next unit for your consideration appears on page 56, Unit 207, Retirement Distributions.
All those in favor of governor's rec, say aye.
Aye.
The next unit for your consideration appears on page 60, Unit 410, Wyoming Works Program.
All those in favor of governor's rec, say aye.
Aye.
The next unit for your consideration appears on page 64, Unit 901, Adult Education.
All those in favor of governor's rec, say aye.
The next unit for your consideration appears on page 66, Unit 902, High School Equivalency Certification.
All those in favor of Unit 902, say aye.
Aye.
The next unit for your consideration appears on page 72, Unit 1001, WIN Nursing Loan and Grant Program.
All those in favor of governor's rec, say aye.
Aye.
Just a point of clarification, after noon today, you will see this amount of the reduction, $423,000, I believe is being requested in ARPA funds in the governor's letter number 16, just as an FYI. The next unit for your consideration appears on page 76. It's Unit 1501, Veterans Tuition Waiver Program.
Yes, we're going to go back to the WIN program on page 71, 72.
Motion that we fund the 408 with ARPA dollars. The Gov's rec, could you explain the Gov's rec, Kevin?
Director Hibbard. So the question is on page 71, 72, we're on the WIN program. There's a total of over $400,000, $408,000. Based on the ARPA letter that we received last night, the governor is recommending instead of using the current funds, but instead to use ARPA funds. Co-Chairman Nicholas has made a motion to use the ARPA funds. There's not been a second yet. Seconded by Senator Kinsky. Director Hibbard.
Madam Chairman, that's correct.
So why the ARPA funds, Director Hibbard?
We can use ARPA funds for that portion of the WIP program, WIN program, excuse me. So in the governor's letter, you'll have those areas where we believe that we can leverage ARPA dollars. And that.
And so,
conversation-
Director Hibbard, is this just an obvious, safe usage of the ARPA dollars that will be without question? Is that really the basis of using it for ARPA?
What I believe it is when we were looking at balancing the profile and we saw this exception request and we figured that we could fund it with ARPA dollars without funding the general funds, that's the choice that we made.
And Madam Co-Chair,
Co-Chairman Nicholas?
it's your idea that, Kevin, that this would be one-time dollars. So when it comes back in next biennium, we'll have to replace it with general fund dollars if we so choose.
Yes, I believe that that's correct. You're suggesting that.
So I
ARPA
amend my
dollars are
motion to
one
make
time.
it one-time.
Madam Chair,
Senator Kinski?
so Senator, Representative Nicholas,
71.
he cut the appropriation in half. 204 comes out of general fund as an ongoing. And he denied the other, in the letter, he's picking up the other position. These are for LCCC out of ARPA. Are you suggesting that both nursing positions be put back and both be funded one time with ARPA and then be part of the standard budget thereafter?
Yes.
Director Hibbard? Or Ms. Legorsky?
Madam Chairwoman, so when we had the discussion on that, just the discussion that we had was to fund half of that with general fund and then the other half we would bring with ARPA. It is ARPA eligible though. So, I mean, if you wish to change that, you can, but our thought process was just to do half with general fund and half with ARPA.
Follow up, Senator Kinski?
Madam Chair, I'm just clarifying. I'm speaking for the representative. I think it's both positions with ARPA money, one time, and thereafter, both positions, standard budget.
That's correct. But all ARPA.
All right, we're going to need further clarification on that motion, Co-Chairman Nicholas, because I don't think that's very clear. And we've heard, I think, different intentions from you the first time, Senator Kinski and the governor. So my question or clarification on the motion is, you want to fund, Co-Chairman Nicholas, your motion is to fund both positions in the amount of $408,000 using ARPA dollars one time, obviously.
Correct.
Madam,
But you also indicated support of Senator Kinski's motion to then plan on doing an ongoing of funding of the two
Yeah.
positions.
So actually, first of all, we're on priority 13, section 4. These are the positions. So that's one up. It's on page 69. That would be ARPA dollars for those positions. One time. That was the motion.
Madam Chair,
Representative Walters.
again,
Mr.
seeking further clarification, Madam Chairman. I think we have two issues with two numbers that have been confused here. We have one, which is student loans for 408,000, which was funded half in the governor's proposal. And I believe the way the motion was stated, we're talking about the priority 13, which is the faculty positions, which is a higher dollar value at 439. And I don't know if we have confirmation if the faculty positions are ARPA eligible. We do have confirmation that the student loans are ARPA eligible. So I think a little clarity would do us well.
So let's just look at priority 13 for purposes of clarification on page 69.
Madam Chair,
Director Hibbard.
the ask was for 439. The governor cut that ask in half. He provided general funds.
So the question is that eligible ARPA for one-time funding?
The positions, I think, would be an uphill climb. We've had that conversation. I would not, I would not believe so.
Representative Sherwood.
Just from the governor's letter, page 7, under Wyoming Investment in Nursing, says this request will fund the college nursing facility positions under the WIN program and in turn, So the ARPA money, at least in this letter, is directed towards the college nursing facility positions.
Let's, we're just gonna give everybody a
Madam
minute.
Chairman, we are funding,
Say that again?
They are proposing.
we are funding the other half of our.
The other half of what?
the
Positions.
Number 13, that's the top of it.
So we can fund them all with ARPA dollars if we choose to.
Madam Chairman, I would say perhaps, but.
How can you
gets
fund
into-
half and not all?
It gets complicated, but I think it's a strong probability. But there are things going on with, as far as what we can do with nurses and so we'll do it and we'll fight it for it and go with that.
Mr. Richards?
Just to provide some clarity, these funds, as I understand it, are not necessarily assigned with one individual faculty position. The challenge of using ARPA dollars, as I understand it, is the timing of those. They basically have to be expended in this next fall semester. So there's a portion of this budget, just the first 6 months of the 24-month biennium, for which ARPA dollars can clearly be used. Anything beyond that, it is questionable whether or not you can encumber those funds after December 31st, 2024. And I think that's what this budget office is struggling with.
So whether or not it's allocated.
Co-Chairman Nicholas, I'm going to ask you to withdraw your motion and then just restate a motion
Okay, I'll.
with clarity on, and we're only dealing with priority number 13.
I'll restate the motion. Thank you. I'll withdraw the motion and restate it, that we will fund half of the $439,831 with general fund and half with ARPA dollars.
Is there a second? Seconded by Representative Henderson. Discussion? Senator Kinski?
I'm supportive. But in the meantime, I'd ask the commission to say, is that workable? And because it might be that we just say we spend as much of the ARPA as we possibly can and then the rest is general fund. They may not be able to spend half of it by December 31st of 2024. They'll give us some feedback on whether that's workable or not. But otherwise, I'm going to support the motion for now.
So is that a friendly amendment? Kevin? I mean, you were already doing half with it.
Director Hibbard?
So if I understand the question is what you'd like to do is backstop the ARPA dollars with general funds to the extent it's not transacted.
Correct.
That's your
That's a
desire.
friendly, that's a friendly amendment.
Yeah, okay, so further discussion? I'm against the motion. I'm for the concept. I do think that adding ARPA into this adds unnecessary confusion and complication, particularly for the amount of money being appropriated. I know that we're on an urgent situation of getting those ARPA dollars out the door and appropriated. I think there's plenty of projects that are coming to our attention that would qualify in the amounts of tens of millions of dollars to address the remaining ARPA funds. This amount of $215 some thousand for a position for the logistics of the colleges to get faculty in the door, I just think is not prudent when we look at the amount of that and adds an unnecessary complication. I actually support restoring the college's request of the 2 positions with general fund dollars as an ongoing amount. That's my position, and I think that that's prudent, and I think that's easier, and I think it allows the colleges to focus on the job at hand rather than spending an unnecessary amount of time determining ARPA eligibility and then backfilling that with general fund.
Madam Co-Chair.
Senator Kinski?
Well, I see the merit of that because when we come to ARPA, we're going to want to try and fully expend it as opposed to wait to see how much reverts that gets unspent from this allocation. I think I'm with you. I'd rather just fully fund the request out of general fund and be done with it. So I guess I'd flip to a no on the motion.
On the motion. I think it's more prudent to use ARPA dollars when we can. This is a good place to do it. It was already recommended by the executive branch, so why wouldn't we do it?
All those in favor of Co-Chairman Nicholas's motion, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say no.
No.
Raise of hands. All those in favor, say aye. All those opposed?
Motion carries.
Motion carries. Have fun with that $110,000 of ARPA dollars
Madam
back
Chairman?
for back and forth.
Have a second, another motion
Co-Chairman Nicholas,
that at priority 14, investment in nursing additional student loans, that the $408,000 be funded with ARPA dollars.
page 70, priority number 14. The proposal of funding the full amount of $408,000 with the ARPA money.
Madam
One time.
Chair.
And assuming that this can get out the door as well and appropriated for scholarship eligibility with students.
And I
Great
would
idea.
add the proviso that the, to the extent possible and what can't do would be funded with general fund dollars.
Okay, so that's a further amendment to the motion.
Madam
It's
Chairman,
been seconded. Director Hibbard?
it would be a significant uphill climb. And I'm just out saying that no student loans with ARPA dollars.
I'll trust you, Kevin. I'll withdraw the motion.
So the other piece on the motion, I just want further discussion on the ARPA funded position for when. That is obviously now one time. And so this program and these positions will have to come back again in order to be funded rather than just resolving it now because of the ARPA component. Representative Walters?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Moving back, I'd move back to priority 13 and make a motion. And this will be conceptual. Staff has done this for us in the past, that these positions will be ongoing using general funds in the next biennial standard budget, or however we typically
Second.
state that.
All right, that's been moved by Representative Walters, seconded by Senator Kinski. Further discussion on that motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Further discussion on Unit 1001. That's still unresolved.
No, I withdrew the motion.
He withdrew the motion. And with the motion was to fund it fully with ARPA funds. And so the question is still if you want to do anything differently with priority 14.
Madam Chairman.
Madam Co-Chair, I would fully fund priority 14 out of general funding.
Moved by Senator Kinski, seconded by Representative Sherwood. Further discussion on that motion? Is this ongoing or one time?
Ongoing standard budget.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
That motion has passed. Further discussion on Unit 1001. All right, all those in favor of Unit 1001 as amended, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Members of the committee, the next unit for your consideration is on page 75, excuse me, Unit 1501, Veterans Tuition Waiver Program.
Approval of Governor's Rec? Say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
The next unit for your consideration appears on page 82, Unit 3001, Public Television.
Approval of Governor's Rec, say aye. Any opposed?
The next unit for your consideration appears on page 84, Unit 3004, Wyoming Public Television Retirement.
All those in favor of Governor's Rec, say aye. Any opposed?
The next unit for your consideration appears on page 87, Unit 3105, Wyoming Public Television Endowment Interest Fund, the 11s.
All those in favor of Unit 3105, say
Madam
aye.
Chair, before the vote, I have a question, Madam Chair.
Representative Walters?
Madam Chair, just a question for the budget office. I have a note that this 110,000 on page 86 may not be the correct amount, that it should possibly be 300,000. Can you enlighten us at all?
Can you repeat the question, please?
Representative?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. On page 86, priority number 1, exception request in Wyoming Public Television, I have a note that that 110 is an incorrect amount, that a different number should have been used there. It's the same in the table and on this, but that may not have been correct, and that it should have been 300,000.
Madam Chairman, Jess just helped me out. It's a transfer from page 81. You'll see a takedown of $110,000, and we're bringing this up to $110,000 in this unit.
Madam Chair, my concern has been alleviated. Thank you.
All right. All those in favor of unit 3,105, say aye. Any opposed?
Members of the committee, the last unit for your consideration appears on page 91, unit 4001, higher education scholarship.
All those in favor of Governor's Rec, say aye. Any opposed?
Madam Chairman, at the risk of bringing up a technical point on ARPA, which did not end how I expected, I would at least put a pin in the unit that you just approved here. This is the Kickstart program for the Wyoming's Tomorrow. It is now being funded with general funds for the next biennium, but I know there are discussions on this topic. So just be aware, it just, as of today, it's funded with general funds. Thank you.
Further discussion on that? Further questions for Mr. Richards?
What was it funded with before?
Mr. Chairman, in statute, it cannot use the interest earnings off of the Wyoming's Tomorrow account until the balance hits 50 million. Right now, I believe the balance is 30,400,000.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Next agency.
Madam Chair, one more question. As I understand it, Kickstart and Wyoming's Tomorrow also can fund Wyoming Works. That monies can still go to Wyoming Works as well, correct? That's a subset now of Wyoming's Tomorrow and Kickstart.
Could you repeat that, Senator Kinsky, a little closer to your mic?
And as I understand it, Wyoming's Tomorrow Kickstart encompasses Wyoming Works. That funding can be used for Wyoming Works as well, correct?
Mr. Richards?
Senator, I think they are similar programs, but I would have to do some research to see whether or not these are primarily scholarships that impact similar qualifying entities, but I think they do have distinct names.
Okay, I'll find out from the college, Don. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Members of the committee, the next agency, if you are ready, is Agency 63.
All those in favor of adopting Agency 57, Wyoming Community College Commission, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? As amended. Good job. All right, next agency.
Next agency for your consideration is Agency 63, the governor's residence. It has one unit. It appears on page 13, unit 101, the residence operation.
All those in favor of Governor's Rec? Senator Guru.
Madam Chair, one moment, let me get there. 13. Thank you.
Let's get to Senator Guru here.
Go ahead with that and I'll look up mine.
Co-Chairman Nicholas? Everybody say provisio.
Allocation for funding and for food and for entertainment. And I think that they added $14,000 to that. Is that correct, Don? Yeah, I'd like to increase that to $30,000.
Second.
And Madam Chair, that would be in the inflation.
Co-Chairman Nicholas?
The motion is to increase the 14,000 to 30,000.
Co-Chairman Nicholas, where do you see the $14,000?
Mr. Chairman, that $14,000 is actually being included in the inflation letter, Governor's Letter 13, and it is, let me look up the amount.
So Madam Chair, I just want to put it in this budget and make it as part of the ongoing budget, so,
The full 30,000 or?
yes. Ongoing.
Madam Chairman,
Director.
in the inflation letter, it's $14,903.
So Co-Chairman Nicholas, do you intend to modify that inflation letter in some way reflecting that $14,000
We just
coming in
don't,
over
we
here?
won't make it redundant, or maybe we'll make it $45,000. I just don't, I think they need more money to do what they're doing. So I'm adding $30,000 to the residency budget for entertainment and for
What
and
is-
for when they feed us.
Okay, that's been moved and seconded. Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Further discussion on the governor's residence? Seeing none, all those in favor of unit 101 as amended, say aye.
Aye.
Further discussion on governor's residence at all before we approve the agency and move on? Going once, going twice? All those in favor of agency 63 governor's residence as amended, say aye.
Members of the committee, the next agency for your consideration is Agency 66, the Wyoming Tourism Board. It has 2 units. The first one appears on page 27 of the book, Unit 101, Wyoming Tourism Account.
Okay, we are on page 27 of Agency 66, Wyoming Tourism Board. Everyone there? All those in favor of governor's rec, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
The next unit for your consideration appears on page 30, Unit 1000 or 101, Wyoming Tourism Reserve Project Account.
All those in favor of unit 101, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
We gotta,
Looks like we've got somebody on my right. I'm not sure who. Representative Stiff?
Mr. Chairman, Madam Chairman, excuse me. I don't know if it's in unit 101, but there was I'll just get to the substance of the motion. I believe that the governor's recommendation was to take approximately $8.29 million in this agency and add it to their standard budget. And the motion would be to deny that as part of their standard budget, not deny the appropriation, but to deny it, putting it in their standard budget.
So one time.
One time, yes.
Is there a second to Representative Stiff's motion? Seconded by Co-Chairman Nicholas. Senator Guru.
Thank you, Madam Chair. How anticipatory of you. On and against the motion, this is in 2001, we started collecting, we moved this department off the general fund and started collecting lodging tax dollars. And we had our first full year of collections. We're just in the year, we're just heading into our second inning or second full year of collection. The intent was, as with a lot of our funds, investment accounts, and a lot of other things that we do here, to try to establish a 5-year rolling average for these funds. The idea behind all of it was to get numbers that we could rely on and get this budget to where we needed it to be. Because as we all know, with tourism being our second largest industry now, and really trying to grow that industry so we can pay for things like community colleges like we just did, which I think is laudable. This is how we're going to try to fund these things in the future. Key to that is to let them do their job and to try to get them to where they can produce significant results for all of us. Moving this money into the general budget and voting against this motion so that I can move that money to the general budget will help achieve that goal. We can establish the 5-year rolling average. We can get their budget to where it needs to be to produce the results we need it to produce. Then we can start doing things like talking about tips and talking about getting money back to the general fund so we can use that to help the people of the state of Wyoming. That's why I urge you to resist this motion now, to let them do the job. Let's get to the 5-year rolling average. Let's allow them to do the work they need to do to produce the results that they need to produce. On and against, thank you.
Madam Chairman,
Representative Stiff?
and just to clarify, I may have misspoken on the numbers. I believe the number is $8,826,000 should be the correct number. And the reason I believe one-time funding makes sense is that we do no harm by having it be one-time funding. This money is going toward advertising. It's not like the advertisers are going to refuse to take the money because it's only for 1 year or one biennium. So I think that we do no harm by that, and we preserve the flexibility and we preserve the control of the legislature over these appropriations. So on and for.
Madam Chair.
Representative Walters?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just for Madam Chairman, I apologize. Just for clarification, we are back in Unit 101 with this discussion.
Yes.
Thank you.
What's the motion? I think probably the first motion should be, I would move to reopen 101.
It's been reopened, which I've already approved.
Okay.
I made the motion, it's done.
So,
The-
Madam Chair, I'm in support of the motion for one-time funding. When we created the lodging tax, we didn't know how much money was going to be derived from it. Now that we've instituted it, there's a lot more money than was forecasted when we went through that process. So the way that the current tourism board is constituted, they make the decisions, spend the money the way they want to, without really any pre-approval or review by the legislature or by the Joint Appropriations Committee. I have in mind that during this interim, we're going to reevaluate the makeup of the tourism board and the agency to determine if the processes that they use are consistent with what we as a legislature directive of the additional dollars that they now have and they're expending, whether we want to spend all those dollars on advertising or for other things or for tourism around the state that may be more driven by legislative decision-making. So by making this one time, that facilitates that process in the interim to go through that exercise. And so I'm in total support of the motion.
Senator Guru.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First, I think we're all proud and honored that these funds have, in some minds, it's more money than some anticipated. It's not one of them. I actually thought we'd have this money from the beginning. And as I've always said in my longer than 40 years in business, when it comes to advertising, half your advertising works and half of it doesn't. Problem is you don't know which half. So you have to fund all of it. And so to say that, to ask them to have this money in their standard budget is important because they're trying to look at that big picture. As they move to that 5-year rolling average, they're trying to get a handle on what is the best way to do this. Yes, the board is constituted, may want to change. We may want to change that. But right now, the board is made up of very competent, long-time business owners who really do know their stuff. And our director is too, as you know, as this board, as this committee well knows, is one of the tops in the country in what she does. And so I would once again resist this motion. Let them do their job. Let them produce the results that we need them to produce now more than ever. And so I urge you to resist the motion. Thank you.
Madam Chair,
Senator Kinski.
I'd like to understand the motion. I believe we're on page 19. WOT requests that 8,826,000 that was designated as one-time funding for FY 23-24 Biennial be included in the agency's standard ongoing budget. Is that what we're talking about? And so the motion is to not include it in their budget ongoing, or to make it as one time, or to not let the transfer happen at all.
Make it one time. That's the motion from Representative Stiff.
Madam Chairman, yeah, just to clarify, this motion does not take any money away from them. It does not redirect the money. It lets them spend the money exactly as they intend to spend it over this next biennium. Changes nothing. It just says this will be one time and not included in the standard budget.
Madam Chair,
Senator Kinski.
I'd speak against the motion. We can always change it if we decide we're going to reshuffle the deck on how we run this organization. But having opposed the increase in the lodging tax and having lost that debate, this is their money. That I'm willing to give them a shot at having enough reliability going forward that they can build the campaign they think they need build. I used to object that they just over promoted Yellowstone and Teton, but you couldn't, with a hammer, you couldn't wedge another tourist into either one of those. So they're truly reaching out to the rest of the state for tourism promotion. And I'm inclined to keep it exactly as it is. I'd be a no on the motion.
Madam Chairman.
Senator Anderson.
Madam Chairman, I'm in agreement with Senator Guru. We've got a competent board here that's doing a tremendous job of working this situation. 2 years out, they're making more money than we anticipated, which is a wonderful thing. And I want to leave them alone, so I'm a no on this amendment.
All right, further discussion. And just for clarification, the source of the money is what? Representative Stith?
Madam Chairman, the statewide lodging tax. And
we're-
Madam Chairman, and the issue here isn't the money. The issue is, do we have legislative oversight over this money in any meaningful way or not? And I think the best way to have legislative oversight and transparency is to make it one time. That's the purpose of it.
Just a question about this concept and what we did when we passed the lodging tax. You know, we give authority to a number of entities. We give taxing authority to a number of entities, which means we do surrender that oversight, right, to the entity for which we gave that authority to and to be responsible for. Now, if we have concerns and we need to take that back, obviously we can, but we don't have these conversations when it comes to cities, towns, counties, special districts. And I certainly don't agree with how they spend all of their dollars. I wish that they would be more prudent with maybe emergency water project money. But just further debate or conversation about that. So I see the policy consideration there, but I also see this requirement to approve it that we intentionally put into the process. So
Ma-
Representative Stith.
Madam Chairman, just to clarify, the Wyoming Tourism Board does not have taxing power.
I understand that. I understand that we voted for the TAC to apply to everyone statewide. I do understand that, but we gave them oversight for its expenditure of those funds collected. Representative Henderson?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I'm in support of this motion because of the success that this agency's had over the last couple of years. You know, my first bill as a legislator had to do with the lodging tax, and that was when most people were against it. And now they're for it. And I think that's great. I'm also a strong supporter of everything that we can do to promote the tourism industry. But I don't think there's anything wrong with a prudent deep dive in this interim into what's going on with the agency and how we, after that, can get together and work together to go forward with it in a positive way. There's no shortage of money. I don't think money is the question with this agency. So that's why I support this, and I urge you to. Thank you.
All right, all those in favor say aye. Any opposed?
No.
Show of hands. All those in favor say, all those in favor, raise your hands. All those opposed, raise your hands. All right, that motion has failed. So any further amendments or discussion on Unit 101 before we close it down? Representative Walters.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I would move 700,000, 350 each year of the biennium for a float or participation in a float in the Rose Bowl Parade.
All those in favor of a float in the Rose Bowl Parade? Discussion? All right,
Madam
all those in
Chairman,
favor say, is somebody wanting to speak?
Madam
Representative Stitt?
Chairman, just a clarification of out of what fund does this money come?
Madam Chairman, to answer the question, this fund is coming from their the Unit 101, what I would describe as their income account, their main account.
Madam Chair,
Senator Kinski?
on and against the motion, I hate to reach into an agency and be this directive and this specific on it. If a float in the Rose Bowl Parade was going to be a good use of the money, they'll spend it that way. On and against.
Further discussion? All right, all those in favor of Representative Walters' motion, say aye. All those opposed?
Oh.
All right, that motion has passed.
Madam Chair.
Representative Walters,
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I would move $2 million from this same unit, 0101, for the purpose of celebrating the United States birthday in 2026. We heard this. If a second, I'll explain.
all right, does everyone understand that motion? All right, all those, Co-Chairman Nicholas?
So just a clarification, this is consistent with the request from the Director of Travel and Rec that presented to us earlier this week.
Chairman.
Or late last week.
Representative Newsom's request, I think, the chairman of the sesquicentennial celebration. which-
And so then my question is it's 2026, would this come out of, what's the timing for the release of the dollars? Or-
Madam Chairman, my motion is simply to allow for that committee, as testified in front of our committee, stated they would like to do these projects between the beginning of the biennium, July 1st of 2024 through July 4th of 2026, when the celebration would take place. And we had the presentation. The presentation pondered the idea of using $1 million tourism dollars and $1 million general fund. I think it's prudent of us to use tourism dollars for the entirety of this project. And so I guess really the motion is to be in line with what was presented to this committee based on the task force for the 250th birthday.
I want someone to try to also say sesquicentennial, whatever it is, for 250. I have the courage to try to say it. Representative Stiff?
Madam Chairman, I have a question for Dawn about the sesquicentennial celebration.
Thank you.
With this $2 million, if it comes out of the regular account, does that impinge on anything else that the tourism board says it wants to do with this same money? That is, is there money there to do it? If if all the money is already going toward advertising, how do they come up with the $2 million?
Mr. Richards?
Madam Co-Chairman, Representative Stiff, I think on page 18 would provide a pretty good assessment. They run a fairly sizable balance in that account, somewhere between 35 and $40 million on the year. So you spent 700,000 and 2 million. We're still in a fairly comfortable position.
So fun fact, sesquiquintal, I'll get you, is 150, 250 is semi-quincentennial. It's not that.
Madam Chair.
Senator Guru.
Representative Larson would like to.
Oh,
Go
I'm
ahead.
sorry. Representative Larson?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. On the previous vote that you had on this agency's budget, I don't know if my vote was counted.
What would you like your vote to be?
It was in support of the motion of Representative Stiss, and I don't know what the count was on that, but
It failed, Representative Larson.
Yeah, but what was the vote count? Can we take a show of hands on the vote count?
We can go back on the tape. Let's take a brief 5-minute recess. Yeah, I'd like to complete this vote. Representative Larson, if you would like to have additional participation, if you could show yourself on camera as we complete this agency out, and that way I can see if your hand is raised or not, and your participation and your vote. If you're concerned about having your vote counted, you need to be on screen so I can see it. Further discussion on Representative Walters' motion concerning $2 million appropriation from the tourism account for the 250th celebration. Further discussion on Representative Walters' motion. Question being called. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion has passed. Committee, we are going to go on a 5-minute break. We're going to go back and review the tape. All right, committee, we are coming back together. The Joint Appropriations Committee. I see we have Representative Larson who is curious about that vote count. Of course, we've taken LSO's time to determine what that vote count is, and we've made sure the record is reflected for Representative Larson's constituents that he supported Representative Stith's vote. There will not be a revote on that, of course, because we took a lawful vote, and if there was any challenges to the way the vote was recorded, that should have happened at the time. If someone wants to bring an additional motion concerning Unit 101, they certainly can. But Ms. Martineau, if you could please let us know what that recorded vote was, that should be helpful.
Madam Chairman, it was 5 for and 7 against.
So there we have it. 7 members of this Joint Appropriations Committee were against Representative Stith's motion to make it a one-time. If there's an additional motion on Unit 101, I'll entertain that now. If not, let's move out of it. Representative Larson?
Madam Chairman, I just want to thank you for taking the time to do that. Thank you.
Absolutely. Additional motions on Unit 101. All right, seeing none, all those in favor of Unit 101 as amended? Say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right. Moving on.
Members of
Just
the
once
committee, I
before.
believe you've already addressed Unit 101 on page 30, the Wyoming Tourism and Reserve Account, project account. So I think if there's nothing further, a final vote on the agency as amended.
All right, final vote on Agency 66, Wyoming Tourism Board as amended, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right.
Madam Chairman, I believe it's your intention to skip Agency 67, the University of Wyoming, in light of their callback this afternoon. If that's correct, the next agency for your consideration would be Agency 69, Witchy. There is only one unit. It appears on page 11, Unit 2001, Administration and Grants.
All right, committee, does everyone understand that we'll hear from the University of Wyoming this afternoon at the same time as we review that governor's letter and Dr. Perry's project? So we can just do that all at the same time with them here to answer some of those questions. We have moved on to agency number 69, Witchy. Mr. Richards has directed us to page 11 of the table. All those in favor of governor's, Mr. Richards.
Members of the committee, an individual did inquire with us about a potential amendment regarding the occupations covered by this program. This is the Witchy program. And you'll recall all but the veterinarians have a repayment requirement.
Madam Chairman.
Representative Larson.
Madam Chairman, I'd like to have my amendment on this would be to have a footnote stating that the exception request of $715,000 would be allocated to those witchy disciplines that have a requirement to a repayment requirement or to requirement to come back to the state and work.
Is there a second? Seconded by Representative Walters. Further discussion on Representative Larson's motion. Seeing Co-Chairman Nicholas.
So, thank you, Madam Co-Chair. So in terms of implications, what I'm curious about is on the dollars, it seems to me that if we if we want veterinarians to perform to come back, that we should only impose that on future students and not those students that are already in line and part of the process and had a reasonable expectation of what the obligations were up until this point in time. And so, Don, if you could help flesh that out for me and how this motion would impact if we did it in that type of a situation.
So a grandfather clause, essentially, Co-Chairman Nicholas. Mr. Richards.
Madam Chairman, that's how I understood the motion. It would apply to new students only. And it would also apply only to the 715,000 exception request. So this is new money for new students.
That is.
Yeah,
All right,
okay.
that is the motion. Further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, further discussion on unit 2001. Seeing none, all those in favor of unit 2001 as amended, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, and all those in favor of approval of agency 69 Witchy, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. As amended. Thank you.
The next agency in order is Agency 70, the Enhanced Oil Recovery Commission. There are 2 units. The first unit appears on page 12, Unit 101, Commission and Support.
Hey, hey. All those in favor of unit 101, say aye. Any opposed?
The next unit for the committee's consideration appears on page 15, Unit 201, Technical Outreach and Research.
All those in favor of unit 201, say aye. Any opposed? All those in favor of agency 7, Enhanced Oil Recovery Commission, say aye. Any opposed?
The next agency for the committee's consideration is Agency 72. This is the retirement system. The first unit for your consideration appears on page 39, Unit 101, Administration.
Any amendments?
Madam,
Representative Smith?
I'm sorry, what page is this unit on?
39. Give everybody a minute to get there.
Thank you.
All those in favor of unit 101, say aye. Any opposed?
The next unit for the committee's consideration appears on page 48, Unit 103, Investment.
All those in favor of unit 103, say aye. Any opposed?
The next unit for your consideration appears on page 54, Unit 601, Highway Patrol.
All those in favor of unit 601, say aye. Any opposed?
The next unit for your consideration appears on page 59, Unit 701, Game and Fish Wardens.
All those in favor of unit 701, say aye. Any opposed?
The next unit for your consideration appears on page 67, Unit 6501, Deferred Compensation Administration.
All those in favor of unit 6501, say aye. Any opposed?
That completes the agency.
All right, all those in favor of agency 72, Retirement System, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
The next agency for the committee's consideration is Agency 77, ETS, or Enterprise Technology Services. The first unit for your consideration appears on page 25, Unit 1001, IT Services. And there was discussion, if I might, during the agency, this was just a question, during the agency presentation regarding priority number 2A and whether or not the agency would benefit from a portion or all of that effective immediate. That was just a discussion.
All right, give everybody a minute to process that. All right, all those in favor of unit 1001, say aye.
Madam Chair.
Representative Walter?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Moving on to page 18, which is that priority 2A, I would move to make 1/2 of that amount effective immediate.
Could you repeat that?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I'm on page 18, priority 2A, and the motion is to make 1/2 of the 3.6 and change effective immediate.
Does everyone understand the motion? All right, all those in favor say aye. Any opposed? All right, that motion has passed. Anything further, Representative? All right, all those in favor of Unit 1001 as amended, say aye. Any opposed?
The next unit for your consideration appears on page 35, Unit 3001, IT Enhanced Services.
All those in favor of Unit 3001, say aye. Any opposed?
The next unit for your consideration appears on page 40, Unit 3003, Direct Billing to Departments.
All those in favor of Unit 3003, say aye. Any opposed?
The next unit for your consideration appears on page 45, Unit 4014, IT Depreciation Reserve.
All those in favor of Unit 4014, say aye. Any opposed?
The last unit in this agency appears on page 51, Unit 5001, Wyoming Unified Network Infrastructure.
All those in favor of Unit 5001, say aye. Any opposed? All right, all those in favor of Agency 77 Enterprise Technology Services as amended, say aye. Any opposed?
Madam Chair, before we take that vote, just a question, a reminder, if I may. On page 45, Mr. Hibbard, we go from a base budget of 575,000.
A little closer to your mic, Representative.
Excuse me. Thank you, Madam Chairman. On page 45, we go from 575,000 in the base budget to 0. Is this depreciation reserve being contemplated in the inflation letter or somewhere else?
Director?
Madam Chairman, let me look into that and get back to you, please.
All right, we will follow up with that on the governor's inflation letter. All right, and so committee, one more time, all those in favor of Agency 77 Enterprise Technology Services as amended, say aye. Any opposed?
The next agency for the committee's consideration is Agency 80, Department of Corrections. This is a longer agency. The first unit for your consideration appears on page 23, Unit 1101, Administration, Services, Operations.
All those in favor of Unit 1000, Mr. Richards?
Yeah. Perhaps before or at the end, there's some policy choices for the committee, one of which is whether the agency requested to continue existing superflex authority. And then secondly, the committee or the agency requested a medical contract increase. This appears in their summary information, and the agency was to report prior to markup. Based upon our email, they are requesting an additional $2.7 million for a total of $6.9 million from the base $4.2 million for increased medical services across the department. So if you chose to agree with that increase, you'll recall they were negotiating over the holidays with the medical services provider. They are requesting an additional $2.7 million. This comes with no governor's recommendation.
Madam Chairman.
Representative Walters?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I would move that we increase the medical amount based on staff's numbers as just stated.
Can we hear those staff numbers one more time?
Well, we're looking to see whether or not it was rounded, but the amount that I indicated was an increase of $2.7 million.
And Representative Walters, this is ongoing,
Madam Chairman, yes, it is.
and the source of funds is
General fund.
general fund.
This is the 4.2 by 2.7 for a total of 6.9.
Is everyone following that? All right, that has been moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. We are still on. Representative Sherwood?
While we're here, I will make a motion to continue the agency's ability to use superflex authority.
Second.
Seconded by Co-Chairman Nicholas. Discussion on the Superflex Authority for the Department of Corrections. Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion has passed. All right, what unit are we on, Mr. Richards?
Madam Chairman, you're back on Unit 1101, page 23.
All right, committee, all those in favor of Unit 1101, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
The next unit for your consideration appears on page 28, Unit 1102, Education and Programming. The next unit for your consideration appears on page 28, Unit 1102, Education and Programming.
All those in favor of Unit 1102, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hold on, Co-Chairman Nicholas is counseling me on how I'm doing it. It's fine to go ahead and share it with the committee.
Well, Madam Chair, if you just go by the agency, the unit, without the gov's rec, then you have two different numbers. And so I think it's the gov recs on the agency, because sometimes it matches, sometimes it doesn't. It's just a procedural one.
Co-Chairman Nicholas would prefer I say approval of governor's rec.
Gov's rec, but I did it wrong, or the other way for the first day and a half. So either way is fine.
We'll be okay. I will say a little bit longer for clarity. So we are now on Unit 1102. All those in favor of Unit 1102, which includes the governor's recommendation, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, Mr. Richards?
The next unit for your consideration appears on page 35, Unit 1103. This is the Chief Finance Operations Administration, and there is an error in the table. The request is for an additional 16 FTE. In the agency's testimony, they concur that this is overstated by, they need two more to be a total of 18. Don't worry, later on, you will see a reduction of like two positions.
Madam Co-Chair.
Mr. Co-Chairman?
So does it change any of the numbers?
It does. So this 16 FTE would be increased to 18.
Right, but then what about the dollars?
The money is right.
Okay.
So do we need to do a correction, Mr. Richards, to the table?
Yes, I think the appropriate motion would be to increase the Gov's rec by 2 FTE in this unit. And again, there'll be another reduction of 2 FTE. So you're not adding.
So moved.
Seconded by Representative Stith. All those in favor say aye.
Madam Chair, for clarity on this table, so we go from 16 to 18 to then the total, does that jump it from 21 to 23?
Right.
The answer to that is yes, Representative Walters.
Thank you, Madam Chairman.
All that, are you ready to vote on correcting the table? All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? All right, anything else on Unit 1103? All those in favor of Unit 1103 to include the governor's recommendation as amended?
Aye.
Say aye. Any opposed? All right.
The next unit for your consideration appears on page 42, Unit 1104. This is the Investigations Unit.
All those in favor of Unit 1104 with the governor's recommendation, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
The next unit for your consideration appears on page 47, Unit 1111. Department of Corrections Administration Director.
Madam Chair,
Representative Sherwood?
I have an amendment here for this unit. I would like to add $500,000 for the director to use for recruitment and retention efforts in the following areas: moving expenses, housing of students at the training academy, attendance at career and job fairs, sign-on bonuses, accelerated background checks, and site-specific staff retention efforts.
All right, moved by Representative Sherwood, seconded by Representative Walters. Discussion on the motion. Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Any opposed? No. Raise of hands. All those in favor, raise your hands. All those opposed, raise your hands. All right, that motion has passed. Any further motions on Unit 1111? Seeing none, all those in favor of Unit 1111 with the governor's recommendation and as amended, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
The next unit for your consideration appears on page 50, Unit 1112 inmate housing.
All those in favor of Unit 1112 with the governor's recommendation, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
The next unit for your consideration appears on page 53, Unit 1119 Training Academy.
All those in favor of Unit 1119 with the governor's recommendation, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
The next unit for your consideration appears on page 57, Unit 1201 CO Assistant.
All those in favor of Unit 1201 with the governor's recommendation, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
The next unit for your consideration appears on page 61, Unit 1203 WHCC Assistance.
All those in favor of Unit 1204 with the governor's recommendation, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
The next unit for your consideration appears on page 66, Unit 1204 WWC Assistance.
All those in favor of Unit 1204 with the governor's recommendation, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
The next unit for your consideration appears on page 69, Unit 1205 WHF Assistance.
All those in favor of Unit 1205 with the governor's rec, say aye. Any opposed?
The next unit for your consideration appears on page 72, Wyoming State Penitentiary Assistance, Unit 1206.
All those in favor of Unit 1206 with governor's rec, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
The next unit for your consideration appears on page 76, Unit 1209 WMCI Assistance.
All those in favor of Unit 1209 with governor's rec, say aye. Any opposed? I'm gonna need a quorum of votes. All those in favor of Unit 1209 with governor's rec, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Madam Chairman, I don't know if you would entertain a en bloc motion on the next five.
I would.
Units C103, C104, C105, C106, and C109. This is the WHCC Commissary, WWC Commissary, WHF Commissary, Wyoming State Penitentiary Commissary, and Wyoming Medium Security Prison Commissary. We have no issue.
Representative Walters makes that motion. That is seconded by Representative
Those-
Henderson. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That included the governor's recommendation. Thank you.
The next unit for your consideration appears on page 110, Unit 2011 Offender Management.
All those in favor of Unit 2011, Offender Management, and the governor's recommendation, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? We need some of that here.
The next unit for your consideration appears on page 114, Unit 2013 Split Sentencing.
All those in favor of Unit 2013, the governor's recommendation, say aye.
Aye.
The next unit for your consideration appears on page 118, Unit 2014. This is House Bill 31 QA, and I believe there may be
Madam-
some.
Yes. Madam Chairman,
Representative Smith,
I would move to amend Unit 2014 in the Series 100 by adding $60,000 for one AWEC position through June 30th, 2025 for purposes of implementing Senate File 120.
Mr. Richards, time out. I'm gonna let Mr. Richards complete what he was explaining to us. And then we'll just keep that motion at bay. Mr. Richards, if you could continue.
Madam Chairman, I was just going to acknowledge that I thought there was an amendment on this.
Thank you. All right. Does everyone understand that motion? And what is that Senate file, Representative?
Madam Chairman, Senate File 120, this relates to the restoration of rights for those persons who'd had completed their sentence and got their gun rights, among other things, restored. and they needed a person to implement this. And the director says they're in the process of doing that, and they wanted another additional 12 months of funding to be able to get that done.
All right, that's been moved and seconded. All those in favor of the motion, say aye. Any opposed? All right, further discussion on Unit 2014? All those in favor of Unit 2014 with the governor's recommendation and as amended, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
The next unit for your consideration appears on page 123, Unit 2015, Sanctions, House Bill 53.
What a good bill. All those in favor of Unit 2015 with the governor's recommendation, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
The next unit for your consideration appears on page 125, Unit 2016, Community Substance Abuse.
All those in favor of Unit 2016 with the governor's rec, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
The next unit for your consideration appears on page 130, Unit 2020, Addicted Offender Accountability Act.
All those in favor of Unit 2020 with the governor's rec, say aye. Any opposed?
The next unit for your consideration appears on page 134, Unit 3037, Fund 75, Secure Treatment Facility.
All those in favor of Unit 3037 with the governor's rec, say aye.
The next unit for your consideration appears on page 136, Unit 3037, Fund 001, that's the General Fund, Secure Treatment Facility.
All those in favor of Unit 3037 with governor's rec, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
The next unit for your consideration appears on page 141, Unit 3111, Fund 557, CI Administration and Marketing.
All those in favor of Unit 3111 with governor's rec, say aye.
Aye.
The next unit for your consideration appears on page 143, Unit 3111, Fund 001, CI Administration and Marketing.
All those in favor of Unit 3111 with governor's rec, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
The next unit for your consideration appears on page 151, Unit 3131, Central Services. And a appropriate motion here is the other side of that FTE motion, wherein there would be an appropriate reduction of 2 FTE in this unit.
Is
Madam
that moved by
Chairman?
Representative Stith?
Yes.
Seconded by Representative Walters. Further discussion on that motion? All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? That motion has passed. All those in favor of Unit 3131 with governor's rec as amended, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
The next unit for your consideration appears on page 157, Unit 3138, Sex Offender Treatment Management.
All those in favor of Unit 3138 with governor's rec say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
The next unit for your consideration appears on page 159, Unit 3141, WWC Vocational Programs.
All those in favor of Unit 3141 with governor's rec say aye. Any opposed?
The next unit for your consideration appears on page 161, Unit 3161, Wyoming State Penitentiary Vocational Programs.
All those in favor of Unit 3161 with governor's rec say aye. Any opposed?
The next unit for your consideration appears on page 163, Unit 3191, WMCI Vocational Programs.
All those in favor of Unit 3191 with governor's rec say aye. A quorum of votes, please. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? Thank you, Senator Anderson. Appreciate the participation.
Next unit for your consideration appears on page 166, Unit 3212, Adult Community Corrections.
All right, all those in favor of Unit 3212 with governor's rec say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Madam Chairman, I think there's an opportunity for a in-block motion, if that meets your needs.
It does.
Unit 3301, 3304, 3305, 3306, 3309, all relate to the institutional inmate medical services.
That's moved by Senator Guru and seconded by Senator Anderson. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Motion is passed.
The next unit for your consideration may also be in block. Units 3431, 3441, 3442, 3451, 3461, 3491. And these are all, and the last one is 3492. These are all institutional residential substance abuse and outpatient substance abuse within each of the correctional facilities.
So moved.
And includes the governor's recommendation, right, Senator Guru? All right, seconded by Senator Anderson. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
The next unit for your consideration appears on page 201, Unit 4001, Prison Operations Administration.
All those in favor of Unit 4001, Prison Operations Administration with the governor's rec, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
The next unit for your consideration appears on page 205, Unit 4002, Prison Programming.
All those in favor of Unit 4002 with governor's rec, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
The next unit for your consideration appears on page 211, 4011, WWC Offender Management.
All those in favor of Unit 4011 with gov's rec, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
The next unit for your consideration appears on page 214, Unit 4012, Inmate Incentive Supply.
All those in favor of Unit 4012, Inmate Incentives Supplies with the governor's rec, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Thank you, Senator Anderson.
The next unit for your consideration appears on page 217, Unit 4021, WWC Facility Management.
All those in favor of Unit 4022 with gov's rec, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
The next unit for your consideration appears on page 219, Unit 4022, WWC Facility Operations.
All those in favor of Unit 4022 with governor's rec, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Madam Chairman, sensing a trend here, an opportunity for a block motion.
Please.
So moved.
Unit 4031, 4032, 4033, 4034, 4132, 4311, 4312, 4321, 4322, 4331, 4332, 4333, 4334, 4511, 4512, 4521, 4522, 4531, 4532, 4534, 4571, 4611, 4533, 4612, 4621, 4622, 4631, 4632, 4633, 4634, 4911, 4912, 4921, 4922, 4931, 4932, 4933, 4934. These all relate to the administration, food services, programming, incentives and supplies, facility management, and education at the various institutions. I'm not
Brilliant.
aware of any issues.
Brilliant, Mr. Richards, brilliant. Moved by Senator Guru, seconded by Senator Anderson. Discussion on the motion, which includes governor's rec. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? Cooking with gas.
Madam Chairman, that completes the agency.
All right, any final discussion on this agency? Going once, going twice.
I think it's correct.
Senator Anderson thinks Department of Corrections is correct. So all of those in favor of Agency 80, Department of Corrections as amended, please say aye. Any opposed? All right, committee, I see that the time is 10:29. This might be a good time to take up the Arboretum bill. That is how our agenda reads at any rate. So with that, committee, we did hear an explanation of this bill before, but just a quick recap potentially from maybe Co-Chairman Nicholas. I understand we're not trying to take up too much time, but to do this properly, we will take public comment on this bill and hear from any agencies per the normal course of a committee approving a bill draft. So Co-Chairman Nicholas, any introductory comments on this bill draft?
Sure. Thank you, Madam Co-Chair. So this bill is the product of extensive work by folks in the community over the last several years, and in particular over the last 6 months with various meetings and participants from the city, the county, from the forest, from the various interested parties. But in essence, what this does, it creates the High Plains Research Stadium Arboretum Historic Site. So we're adding one more historic site within the control of the state parks. Earlier, we had testimony about where this is located, the history of it, which is all quite remarkable. And we passed out some handouts and several booklets on it. This is, in order to make this become a state park, we're required legislatively to pass a statute to add it to the properties that are controlled. And so what this bill does is simply comply with our statutory requirements, establishing this as a state park. As drafted, there are no funding in this. It directs state parks to put together a master plan that will be implemented with 1 year of the implementation of this act. And then gives them the obligation of the state parks to implement that master plan going forward. So that in a nutshell is what this bill does.
All right, questions for the co-chairman?
Madam Chair,
Senator Guru?
that's a question. First, thank you. And I know this has been long in the works and appreciate you bringing it to us today. I had a question though about, just to refresh my memory, and we might need Director Glenn to come up, but when we did the budget on the Parks Department, I know one of their big concerns was making sure that we had adequate funding in their budget to do that work that you just stated and put together that plan. Did we get there? Like, I'm just trying to,
So,
I
Madam
know it was just
Chairman,
a few days.
there are several rough estimates of what the cost will be to implement and operate this, the High Plains Research Station and how we do it. That will in part be directed by the master plan that they will put together over the next year. So we don't know what that number is. There will be an insertion from the House Appropriations Committee that will add startup dollars into the budget bill in order to effectuate that. And that number isn't fully determined yet, but in essence, the key of that is to provide sufficient dollars so that the state parks can complete their master plan, put that together and come back for regular appropriation after that has been reviewed and assessed by Parks and Rec, the committee, as well as the Appropriations Committee.
Follow up, Senator Guru?
Thank you.
Madam Chairman.
Senator Anderson?
Madam Chairman, I think this is going to be a pretty expensive operation for the Parks Department to handle. Where will that funding come from? And is there any opportunity for them to make some income off this property?
Madam Co-Chairman?
Co-chairman?
Thank you for the question. How much it costs to operate this will be a direct determination by the legislature and by the various groups and fundraising mechanisms of this consortium that are putting together this arboretum. Part of the plan of the arboretum is that they will basically develop high plains trees that will be available for sale and for marketing throughout the state of Wyoming. So literally hundreds and hundreds of trees that will benefit each and every county who are interested in acquiring the certain types of trees that will be productive and useful for the state of Wyoming. Currently, most of the trees that are purchased, for example, for the State Highway Department and those other places, we purchase from other states and other locations. This will, one of the goals of this project is to reestablish that arboretum concept where we raise and grow trees and make them available for across the state. There will also be various components of this as the buildings are developed to have fundraisers, to have a foundation, to and also assess different fees to maximize the ability to raise funds to pay for it. The community has also, that being the city of Laramie, or of Cheyenne, has agreed to provide one full-time permanent employee who is working on this project to share in those costs. And there are various other components of the community who have volunteer time and efforts in order to minimize the cost going forward. But that will also be part of the master plan and presented in detail to this committee next year.
Representative Larson.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Representative Nicholas, I would just assume similar to any time we take on any type of restoration project that once this master plan is done, or even sooner, we may anticipate an infusion of one-time dollars to get the assets up to a point that they're stable and preserved and to meet the intentions of what the estate park would be. And so I think that we would anticipate giving the resources once that master plan is ready, and maybe even before, on some stabilization. Is that a reasonable expectation?
Co-chairman.
Yes, it is.
Any additional questions for the co-chairman? I do see that the director of state parks is here. Director, do you want to come forward? The city of Cheyenne mayor has arrived. Welcome, Mayor Collins. We'd all like to talk with you about parking tickets. Just kidding. Just kidding. Kind of kidding. All right. Welcome, Director.
Good morning, Madam Chairwoman Dave Glenn, Director of Wyoming State Parks and Cultural Resources. Nick is a deputy director that's kind of been heading this up, so I'd like Nick to kind of take charge and lead that conversation.
Wonderful.
Thank you, ma'am.
Welcome, Deputy Director. Good to see you.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Nick Neal, Deputy Director of State Parks. We're excited. We're excited about the possibilities that come along with taking this site on. We think it would be an excellent addition to our system. We've done a lot of work ahead of time through our site criteria process, where we did some extensive evaluations. Spent a lot of time trying to figure out how much this would cost us to operate, both staffing wise and resource wise. We've started doing a little bit more public engagement right now. We had a public meeting across the street last night at the State Museum, where 83 people braved the cold weather to come out and show their support for this project, including the mayor and some of his staff. So there's a lot of great opportunities here. I think so many people are interested in this project as partners. We could really make this one of the gems of our system if we have the resources to do so.
Representative Larson.
Thank you, Nick and Director Glenn, to whoever would like to answer that. I'd like to go back to the question that Senator Anderson asked when he talked about costs that were expenses to your agency. My question is, do we have a state park that generates revenue? I know that we generate, excess revenue above and beyond the needs that it consumes. I think we have the gas tax, we charge fees that supplement to some degree the state parks, but it's not like we have any of the state parks that are a cash cow for the state, is there?
Madam Chairman, Representative Larson, even our busiest parks don't come close to breaking even, much less generating funds.
Further questions for state parks? All right, seeing none. Thank you, gentlemen. Mayor Collins? Mayor Collins, welcome.
Good morning, Madam Chairman, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Mostly, I just came by today to just share with you that we're really excited about this potential for partnership. I think when I was talking to legislators, they were worried that state parks was coming and taking this away from us. And I think the opposite is true. We've come to state parks to ask for partnership. This site, I think many of you have been out there, is really an amazing place. And I don't know, maybe it's the boyish part of me, but I think about, 100 years ago, sending explorers out. We didn't have airplanes and things like that, and they went all over the world to try to find trees that would grow in Cheyenne in this high west desert, wind blowing, hail falling area that we live in. And so they went on ships and they went to China and they went to Mongolia and they went all over the places to try to find hardy enough species so that they would grow here. When Cheyenne was founded, rumor is we had like 10 or 12 trees, and we have hundreds of thousands of trees that are thriving today. And a lot of that comes from the explorers that found species that would grow and thrive in this area. And then we look at the ranching communities and the shelter belts. I don't think there's a ranch probably that hasn't benefited from the research that happened here. And then we have the conservation corps, two of them were here, and these beautiful stoneworks and things that they did. And then we have one of the original water plants, kind of in the Western United States. All of that stuff is located on this beautiful place. And then today they're doing grasslands research on cow-calf pairs. And I'm not a rancher and I don't quite understand exactly, but trying to make sure that our existing ranching environment is healthy. But the reality I see is that City of Cheyenne will never have the resources to maximize what this could be. We've done our best to try to keep the trees alive, but we don't have the expertise. And when I talk to the people at state parks, that's what they do. They do the interpretive stuff. They do the showing off our history, Wyoming's history to our residents and to our visitors. And so I think this is a marriage that I think is beautiful. The city owns this property, and we want to continue to be a part of it. So we'll provide arborists to help with the trees. We see a potential for us to partner and grow trees, not only for Cheyenne, but for state forestry and for the conservation districts across the state in our greenhouse like they did, in the 1930s and on. And anyway, so I just wanted to come here today to say that, we want to be a partner in this. We think it's a great program, and we really look forward to your support.
Mayor Collins, thank you. Questions for the mayor unrelated to parking tickets? Representative Stith.
Madam Chairman, Mr. Mayor, thank you for being here. What's your expectation of what the city's ongoing contributions to maintenance of this would be, if any?
Mayor?
Madam Chairman, through you, Representative, I don't know exactly what all that looks like because we're still fleshing out that part of the agreement. But in our budget, we're already proposing to add an arborist position full-time to be out there. We see the ongoing effort to grow trees as something the city wants to be part of in the greenhouse and the head house, the lath house. And so I fully intend that we'll have staff that will be out there doing that part of the operation. So we're into this, and we'll do everything we can to be a partner and help in it with whatever limited resources or whatever resources we can bring to it. I think this is an amazing opportunity.
Further questions for the mayor of Cheyenne? Seeing none, Mayor Collins, thank you for being here today. I know you have a very busy
Thank you all.
schedule.
Appreciate you.
Thank you. Any further public comment on this bill for the Arboretum? Somebody online?
We do have a Sarah Delgado online, so I will promote her to panelists.
Wonderful. Miss Delgado is coming in.
Hello, everyone.
Welcome, Ms. Delgado. If you could introduce yourself and who you're with for the committee.
My name is Sarah Delgado. I'm a Master's of Public Administration student at the University of Wyoming. I'm also a very proud wife of an airman in our United States Air Force stationed here at F.E. Warren, as well as a volunteer at the High Plains Arboretum.
Well, welcome, Ms. Delgado. If you could share with the committee your thoughts and public comment on this bill draft.
Thank you so much for taking the time to let me speak today in support of this tremendous goal. So when my husband and I arrived to Cheyenne in May of 2023, my primary goal was, and still is, to learn more about the community that we call home. As such, one of the first events I attended in Cheyenne was a tour of the High Plains Arboretum. I was immediately fascinated by the efforts that multiple generations of researchers, farmers, and ranchers had undertaken to find ways to thrive in the High Plains. I was also captivated by the unique architecture of the buildings on site and was curious about the lives that had been lived in their four walls. I was so compelled by the tour that when I was prompted by one of my master's courses at UW to complete a service learning agreement in conjunction with a nonprofit, I chose to volunteer at the High Plains Arboretum. My time spent volunteering at the Arboretum has further imparted upon me the history and incredible biodiversity of the site. There's also something truly awe-inspiring about caring for trees that are nearly a century old, trees that have persevered for many years, in some cases without water or direct care. My fall volunteer experience was also visually stunning, having been colored by the changing of trees from all over the world. I admire the fact that this legislation will help create connections with UW students and LCCC students and other students so that they can experience being on the site as well as hopefully giving back to it and being a part of its rich history. The site has been host to many different efforts throughout the years, and I think future UW LCCC students could help bring some of those efforts into the foreground. Efforts such as sustainable farming and drought-tolerant horticulture that continue to be important matters for us all to focus on. I myself have continued to volunteer at the Arboretum and will continue to do so in partnership with the Wyoming Naturalist Program at UW, as I am well aware of the effect that my volunteer experience has had on me. There are many reasons why the Arboretum should be a protected state historic site. More so than all of the sentiments I've just shared is that the site speaks to what Wyomingites were and are. The site is a testament to the perseverance and ingenuity of Wyomingites and other settlers of the High Plains who chose, rather than running away from the challenges that face them, to run toward them with pride. In times of doubt, in the face of new challenges that emerge, we should look no further than the Arboretum and its living testament of this tremendous quality of Wyomingites to overcome adversity and to come together to create something incredible. I hope that future generations of Wyomingites have the opportunity to create their connections to this very special place. Thank you for your time.
Ms. Delgado, thank you so much. Thank you for your thoughtful comments, well prepared and timely in light of our busy schedule. Welcome to Wyoming, and thank you for being a volunteer, and thank you for your husband's service and being a military spouse with military family and being a UW cowboy. So thank you so much for all that you're doing for our state so very quickly. Co-Chairman Nicholas, aren't you glad that I insisted on public comment?
Absolutely.
All right, we give you an A++. Thank you, Ms. Delgado. Appreciate you being here. Any questions for Ms. Delgado? All right, seeing none, thank you for your time this morning. Good luck in your studies. All right, any further public comment? All right, seeing none, public comment is closed. Committee, back to you. It's been moved by Representative Nicholas. Okay, one at a time. Moved by Representative Nicholas, seconded by, was that Larson? By Representative Larson. Further discussion? Further discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Motion is on 24 LSO 0357, working draft 0.6. Representative Henderson.
Aye.
Representative Larson.
Aye.
Representative Sherwood. Representative Stith.
Aye.
Representative Walters. Representative Swanitzer Dave.
Aye.
Senator Anderson.
No.
Senator Guru.
Aye.
Senator Kinski. Senator Salazar. Co-Chairman Nicholas.
Aye.
Chairman Nethercott.
Aye.
Madam Chairman, the motion is agreed to.
All right, thank you, Mr. Richards. That'll be a House bill, because that's what we do on this committee, whether it's a good idea or not. All right, moving on, we have the Wyoming Stable Token Commission up next on our agenda. We're a little ahead of schedule, but I do see that I think all of the relevant stakeholders are here.
Madam Chair,
Senator Guru.
as they come forward, I just want to say thanks to Mayor Collins for coming and speaking to us today. And I know that he'll be prepared to offer all members of the legislature parking passes for the Arboretum.
Madam Chairman.
Senator Anderson?
Madam Chairman, I really appreciate Senator Drew getting a pass to the park at the Arboretum, but I'd rather have a pass to park in Cheyenne. And we used to get those regularly. They gave us a card to put in our vehicle to park wherever we wanted to in Cheyenne. I'd like to see him do that again. Thank you.
We're willing to pay.
We are paid.
We are paying. But we'd like to not be law violators. Yeah. All right. Looks like we have the Executive Director of the Stable Token Commission, Anthony Apollo, here with us here this morning. Director Apollo, welcome to the Joint Appropriations Committee. We're glad to have you. If you'd like to introduce who you have with you and prepare your presentation, go right ahead.
Absolutely. Thank you, Madam Chairman. My name is Anthony Apollo. I am the Executive Director of the Wyoming Stable Token Commission. Joining me on the dais today are Norman LeBlanc, the Chief Operating Officer of the State Treasurer's Office, as well as Rory Horsley of the Administration and Information Team. I cannot see who's currently on Zoom, but I believe we may be joined by two of our commissioners, those being Flavia Naves, who is the former General Counsel of Circle, the largest domestic stablecoin issuer, as well as Joel Reville, who is the CEO of Two Oceans Trust and also a citizen observer on the Select Committee for Blockchain, Financial Innovation, Digital Innovation Technology, formerly known as the Blockchain Task Force.
Representative Larson?
Will do. I do intend to thoroughly monopolize the conversation today, but I do understand that we have a limited time of 30 minutes. So I wanted everybody on standby to answer any questions the committee may have. Madam Chairman, at this point, I'd like to quickly understand how you'd like today to go. I would like to first introduce myself because this is my first time meeting everybody here. Then I would like to suggest that we review the agency letter at a high level, followed by a review of our 600-900 series report, which is quite small, and then break into our exception request. However, if the committee would prefer to simply do a bit of Q&A following the introduction, I'm open to that as well.
Let's let him proceed with his prepared process. I think he probably thought it through and knows that that makes the most sense. What I would ask for you to do is, after your introduction of who you are, is briefly mention how the commission members get appointed. And again, if you could restate their names and the company that they are with, and then I would ask the members of the committee maybe to do a quick Google search of who those commission members may be and what companies they may be associated with to give a little bit more credibility to our commission members. Director, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. So again, my name is Anthony Apollo. I've been in the executive director position for a very lengthy tenure of 4 months. That'll be my anniversary tomorrow. Before I worked for the Wyoming state government, I split my career pretty much 50-50 in both traditional finance and also blockchain technology. I began my career in KPMG performing audits, moved on to Ernst & Young doing advisory work. The consistent narrative throughput there was a focus on regulatory reporting. All that to say is my job was to make sure that banks would be more transparent in the wake of the 2008 financial crisis. When I learned about blockchain technology in 2015, it seemed like a great way to espouse that transparency intrinsically. We know that all these records are going to be publicly available, they are immutable, and anyone on planet Earth can see them at any time. So I transitioned my career in 2017 to focus on blockchain. And since then, I've worked on everything from creating tokenized intellectual property, so taking intellectual property rights and putting that on a blockchain, payouts to content creators that are performed in real time and directly to digital wallets, and also performed a compliant debt security token with an NBA athlete named Spencer Dinwiddie, which had payouts performed in stable tokens. So I certainly have some exposure there. To answer Madam Chairman's question, the commission is staffed by 7 commissioners. When this act was passed in March of last year, the initial 3 who were appointed to the commission were the governor, the state auditor, and the state treasurer. So there is significant oversight on this project. The 3 commissioners then appointed 4 more subject matter experts. Those again would include Flavia Naves, who is the former general counsel of Circle.
I'd like you to look up Circle Committee on your machines in front of you.
Circle again is the largest, not to spoil anything, but they are the largest domestic stable token issuer with $25 billion under management and have raised over $1.1 billion in capital.
So this is kind of a real company, a real thing, huh?
This is certainly a real thing, Madam Chairman.
Thank you. Sorry.
We're also joined on the commission by Joel Reville, the CEO of Two Oceans Trust in Jackson, one of the first Bitcoin trusts, and he's also a citizen observer of the select committee. We also have David Pope of DAP CPA, who is a local tax and audit practitioner with about 3,000 clients. Interesting kicker there is that most of them are focused on digital assets. And we also have Jeff Wallace, who is the head of Wyoming Bank and Trust. So we have some local banking representation on the commission as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. So what I'd like to do is quickly run through the agency letter, which is probably a bit lengthier than the letters you've seen before. As Mr. Richards did mention, this is an unusual request, to paraphrase. If this gets long in the tooth, just give me a signal and we'll start wrapping it up. But what I'd like to do is just kind of go through this,
We have
make
time.
sure we all have the same context, and we'll go from there. So
Go ahead.
So to kick off, first page will look like this. Is quickly just a summary of what our ask is. Again, we are asking for $5.8 million for the 2025-2026 biennium. And I put a very important part in bold here that the commission expects and intends to return all capital provided by the general fund using investment income generated by the underlying reserves of the stable token. We can go into a bit more detail of what that means, the mechanics of it, along with Mr. LeBlanc here later. But I think that is certainly key to call out. We also view the stable token as an opportunity for Wyoming to create a supplemental and diversified revenue stream to fortify the state as its position as a leader in legislation around cryptocurrency, blockchain, and digital assets, and also explore privacy-conscious stable tokens ahead of the launch of potentially domestic or international central bank digital currencies, which you'll often see as CBDCs. Flipping over to page 2, providing a bit of background. Again, we highlight Wyoming's position as a leader in this industry from a state perspective. We also call out here that stable tokens are currently a $130 billion asset class, which is being added to by the day, fully built on top of blockchain technology. And that Wyoming has a unique and immediate opportunity to seize that market. In terms of the broader landscape at the bottom of page 2 and on page 3, I wanted to give some context about what other states, countries, and coalitions are doing in this industry as well. From the stable token perspective, Wyoming, I believe, is certainly the leader. The closest is some preliminary work done by Texas on a gold-backed stable token design. However, in terms of regulatory frameworks that are available, New York Department of Financial Services already has theirs, and California is not far behind. They recently put out their digital financial assets law, taking effect in 2025. We know that countries abroad are working on stable token or stable coin frameworks. Predominantly, this would be the Markets and Crypto Assets Regulation, or MiCA, in the European Union. We know Hong Kong, Singapore, the UK are not far behind and already putting out preliminary documentation. Regarding central bank digital currencies, the US Federal Reserve has been exploring this technology since 2016. And there is a lot of concern around surveillance. I certainly call out here that Representative Emmer recently passed the CBDC Anti-Surveillance State Act through the House Financial Services Committee a few months back. And abroad, in terms of CBDCs, China's digital yuan, or yuan, has been around for some time, several years. And key members of the BRICS coalition, which is greatly expanded as of January 1, have put forth the idea of a digital super currency. Now, none of this has been extremely well adopted since, but it's something we're monitoring, and any number of policy changes in any direction could always change that. All this to say is Wyoming is well positioned to put out its own guidance and its own product ahead of anyone else. In terms of progress on the bottom of page 3 and moving to page 4, I'm going to skip over most of this because we already talked about the background of some of the commissioners and how they were appointed, and my own appointment in September of this year. In terms of the work we've done to date, there's been a business plan generated. We've launched a website with all of our materials and thought leadership on there. We've delivered a legislative report to the Select Committee on November 1st. And critically here, we've entered a request for information period to solicit to begin socializing with potential vendors what it is we're trying to build, which is, again, the full front to back life cycle of a Wyoming stable token. That's everything from development to issuance to ongoing management once it is live. The response to the RFI, I would characterize it as overwhelming. In the 30 days we had, which includes the Thanksgiving holiday, in which the RFI was live, I was in contact with over 210 people across 92 companies who are interested in contributing to this effort. That allowed us to extend the RFI period through March 4th. We're going to continue these conversations. We're going to continue working through the best possible design of a Wyoming stable token that will allow us to expeditiously launch something that is both compliant and technically secure. We've also done this with minimal budgetary expense. We have spent less than $150,000 through this commission to date. However, this is where we must recognize that we're transitioning from a design period to a development period or a build period. So moving on to funding at the bottom of page 4 and going into page 5, I certainly call out the money that's been raised by private domestic incumbents in the stable token industry, particularly Circle, raising over $1.1 billion, and Paxos raising over $540 million for their stable token issuance. And to give you an idea of how fast the space is moving, just a week or two ago, the European Central Bank put out a request for proposal for their own stable token offering. It was 5 RFPs consolidated that equaled out to $1.2 billion that they're offering to build theirs. Now, we're in an interesting position because we have the ability to license technology from those who have already built it. And that's where we believe we can come in at a much lower price point by collaborating with vendors who essentially have turnkey technology that we can utilize to put forth a Wyoming stable token. That's where our $5.8 million request comes in. I will quickly fast forward to the revenues piece on the bottom of page 5, going on to page 6. This just gives a kind of back of the envelope calculation about how revenues would be generated through investment income from the Wyoming stable token. If someone wants to buy $100 of Wyoming stable tokens, we can certainly take in that money. Our goal is to collaborate with the Treasurer's Office to invest that $100 of fiat currency that comes in into a blend of cash, U.S. Treasury securities with 1 year or less to maturity, and U.S. Treasury repurchase agreements with 30 days or less to maturity. So these are fairly liquid, low-risk securities that, again, the STO would have oversight into. We give a little bit, again, back the envelope calculation of how much money that would generate. I'd also like to point out the market capitalization of some of the domestic incumbents. PayPal has $275 million of their PYUSD stable token currently in circulation. That's actually closer to the 300 million as of this morning. And again, Circle has about 25 billion in circulation of their USDC stable token across multiple blockchains. One other thing I wanted to highlight here is the need for expediency from our agency. There is great economic potential here in leveraging the high interest rate environment we currently find ourselves in. That being said, the Fed has already alluded to cutting rates several times across 2024, and that would have an impact on how much revenues we're able to generate. So again, being expeditious with this will be beneficial. And finally, just to hammer it home on the bottom of page 6 here, repayment, I quote the statute, that the funds that were initially allocated to the commission, which was $500,000, must be repaid to the general fund. And we've put forth that any funding that would be allocated for the 2025-2026 biennium would also be repaid in full to the general fund for anything that we take out of it. I'd like to thank the JAC for fitting in this request on a fairly tight time frame and for your attention to this matter. At this point, I'd be happy to stand for any questions.
Director, thank you. Thank you for all your work. Senator Guru.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Director Paula, good morning. The 5.8 million you're asking for this biennium, is that going to be, are you looking that to be an ongoing request, or is this just a startup cost thing? And I know you said that. I just wanted to hear what's your thoughts.
Director.
Madam Chairman, Senator Guru, the goal for us is to have a one-time infusion of capital. And then the goal for this agency would to be self-sufficient within, let's say, the 2027, 2028 biennium, based on the revenues that are being generated on that interest investment income.
Follow-up?
Yeah. And then you also said that the $500,000 startup money that you've already received, the intent is to get that, return that money too through your investment proceeds?
Director.
Madam Chairman, Senator Guru, that is correct. If we walked through the agency letter, but if we were to flip to the exception request, I know we have this highlighted there. So our request is inclusive of any unobligated, unexpended funds from the initial allocation of $500,000, which the commission also has to be carried forward. So what we're saying here is we don't expect to spend that entire $500,000. We would expect that to be applied to this request of 5.8 million, and then the entire sum would indeed be paid back. So that's the long answer to your question. The short answer is yes, we intend to pay everything.
Follow-up?
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
All right, additional questions, Representative Stith.
Madam Chairman, Director Apollo, thank you. If we approve the funds, what's your timeline for when the stable token can go online, be live?
Director?
Madam Chairman, Representative Stith, our goal is to have the stable token online by the end of this calendar year. So by year end 2024. To add some additional context to that, we are now in an RFI period that is scheduled to wrap on March 4th. The goal for us, and this has been socialized with the commission at our last meeting, is to enter into the request for proposal period on March 22nd. Let that run for about 40 some odd days to the end of May. And then would be to transition into formal negotiations beyond that. So there would be some symmetry between when RFPs would wrap and our oral interviews with potential candidates to build this, and when the funding would be infused on, I believe, July 1st.
Madam Chairman, follow up. Madam Chairman, Director Apollo, how would you respond to, say, naysayers who would say, well, this is a nice effort, but we're too late because USDC, they already have a first mover advantage. And if we come out with our stable token, it just won't go anywhere because whoever gets there first wins. And, you know, the private version of this is already circulating.
Director?
Madam Chairman, Representative Stith, I think there's plenty of potential for us to be the first publicly issued stable token on the market. From a purely mathematical perspective, the fact that PayPal launched their stable token in August, I believe it was August 24th of last year, with about $40 million of market cap out the gate, it's now 300 million. There is room for new entrants into the market. And I also believe we can do it more efficiently as a state. There are certain rules that will not be applicable to us. And again, I will say that at a high level because we're still doing a lot of legal exploration. I would also finish to say our hope is some of those legal benefits and value adds would be conferred to the end user in terms of things like privacy or custody.
Madam Chairman, follow up.
Yes.
Would you also say that one of the advantages is that having a sovereign state, a Wyoming stable token, gives an added sense of confidence that the private sector just simply can't provide?
Director?
Madam Chairman, Representative Stith, I would 100% agree with that comment. I think that transparency for the state will have better transparency than any public company regardless, right? It'll be better than any public company. Ironically, Circle did just file an S1, so they are intending to go public soon. So I believe our transparency will be better than that. And I do believe there's more trust, right? This is functionally a sovereign wealth fund we are talking about here. And I believe that we will have great trust in this product.
Representative Larson?
Thank you, Director Apollo. I guess first off, it just adds some life to an old man, you know, to hear this new stuff coming out, and we have people that you guys, the work that you're doing is this is pretty fun stuff, and I mean it's certainly over my head, but I trust you. Okay, my question though, as you noted, I think it was New York and California had some legislation in place, but that suggested that we didn't. And then to Representative Stiff's point, you then responded that we would be able to go out in 2024. My question is, do we have the legislation, do we have statute in place that allows you to accomplish your goals of getting that out in 2024?
Director?
Madam Chairman, Representative Larson, thank you for the question. So right now we have the Stable Token Act governing the commission and the token itself, which is fairly broad. However, the act does give policymaking responsibilities to the commission in certain capacities, right? So all that says, I believe we have the ability to do it and put a framework in place, but I do think that is one of the big efforts that will take place on my side. That'll be not only the Stable Token Commission, but it'll be done in conjunction with the Treasurer's Office, the Select Committee. The Attorney General's Office is very closely working with us on this because there is so much new here. And also we do have to be very considerate of Wyoming's
Follow up, Madam
reputation.
Chairman.
Follow-up?
So does that impede your ability to meet your 2024 goal where you wouldn't be able to do probably any any legislation until 2025?
Director?
Madam Chairman, Representative Larson, I do not believe that is a blocker at this time.
Thank you.
Questions for the director? Representative Henderson?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I just have a couple of nuts and bolts questions. I mean, I understand your objective for, for the next 12 months and your ask. Would you have a business plan put together? Do you have a marketing plan? How's it going to be made? How are we going to be stored? Those kind of things. I'm just trying to figure out what's your break even, what your fixed costs are, and what the plan is rolling that out.
He's a banker. Director?
Madam Chairman, Representative Henderson, thank you for the question. A couple of things to unpack there in terms of those nuts and bolts. In terms of break-even analysis, one of the things we are currently working through is a revenue model. I'm working closely in conjunction with the Treasurer's Office on that as well. For example, there's a lot of questions to be answered about what the blend of investments will look like. For example, we know we can avail ourselves of cash, U.S. Treasuries, again, with a year or less to maturity, or repurchase agreements with 30 days or less to maturity. I am not the expert on that. We do have an office that is an expert on how we should allocate funds within that kind of bucket. We also, again, need to consider things like the decay function of, the anticipated lowering of interest rates in 2024, for example. In terms of business plan, marketing plan, business plan has been in flight since August of last year. That was initiated before I came on board. We've worked on it a little bit since. I believe the last version was up in October. And my goal for the commission meeting in February is to get a new version of that out as well that will layer in all of the context from the RFI process and discussions we've had to date. A marketing plan would be part of that. Economic analysis would be part of that. And I think legal analysis candidly would be another piece of it because we need to understand not only how we could best move it forward structurally in the state of Wyoming, but also domestically and even abroad in some of these frameworks we're seeing the UK and Singapore and Hong Kong and others put forth.
Follow up.
Yes.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. So if my understanding is correct, most of your exception requests is people related, right? Is that correct?
Madam Chairman, Representative Henderson, the split is pretty much an even 1/3 to internal resources in the 100 series and 2/3 to external vendor resources in the 900 series. And I'm happy to walk through what that allocation looks like.
Final follow-up. Thank you, Madam Chairman. So really, how are they going to be made and stored and so on? Just kind of describe that process.
Apologies, I didn't quite hear the question. How are the tokens going to be stored?
Do you plan to make them here in Wyoming, or are you going to contract it out? And then how are they going to be stored? Describe that process.
Director?
Madam Chairman, Representative Henderson. So I will caveat this by saying everything is up for design decisions. At this time, the stable token, which to be very clear, be a digital asset, would kind of live online. I do believe as we roll the product out, it will be staged in a certain way, in which if we were to have what's called a private alpha, essentially a testing period for it, it is highly likely that the first versions of a Wyoming stable token would be launched and geo-gated to the state of Wyoming to make sure everything went well before we went too broad. We need to kind of slow roll that element of it, because we want to make sure we don't step 1 foot too far and get shot down. But I think in terms of who would be issuing the tokens and where that would happen, the state of Wyoming, per the statute, will be the legal issuer of the tokens. We do have an instrumentality of the state.
Madam Chairman.
Senator Anderson?
Madam Chairman, I noticed that the letter says you're going to pay back the 500,000 and the 5.8. So that makes a total of 6.3 that you're going to pay back to the state from all the profits you're going to make off this thing. What do you think the timeline is on that? Is that a 5-year window or a 10-year window, or what kind of maybe a 1 year? I don't know what kind of profits you're gonna take off this thing.
Director?
Madam Chairman, Senator Anderson, thank you for the question. As a quick clarification, I do not believe we're looking at 6.2, 6.3 million for repayment. What we are specifying, and Rory, if I misspoke earlier, please do correct me. We do expect that the money that we still have in that 500K, which is we expect to be about $275,000, would be put back in this bucket to make up the 5.8 million. So it's not roughly 300K on top of this. We expect that money to be rolled over. I have a bullet point in here on that about the unobligated and unexpended funds. But again, if I was incorrect, I think I'm not incorrect. So there's that. In terms of the payback period, that again will be better gleaned from the revenue model we're creating. However, some of the math we've been using to do our projections here assumes a $100 million market capitalization of the stable token. If we were to have a 4.5% interest rate on $100 million of stable tokens outstanding, that is $4.5 million. If you were to allocate every one of those dollars to repayment, you'd be almost there in a year. I do not think we should be repaying every single dollar to the general fund first. There is a need for us to have a 102% reserve requirement. So I believe we'd want to bring those things up equally. And then of course, there will be some operational expenses. One of the things we haven't really dug into because it is still a bit variable is which vendors were paying a flat fee. And this budget request does expect or suppose we do pay all these vendors a flat fee. We can also pay some of these vendors a pro rata amount based on the investment income we're generating. So that would, again, change the math a little bit, but this can be anywhere from a 2-year to 4-year payback period.
Senator Guru?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Okay. Of the first question of the 500,000 that's been put out there so far, and you look to
A little closer to your mic.
let's see, anticipated to revert back to 75 now, but how many employees do we have?
Director?
Madam Chairman, Senator Guru, you're looking at them.
Okay, so the 207, the money that we spent so far, which is a little less than half of that, has just gone into salary and set up for you.
Director?
Madam Chairman, Senator Guru, I am part of it. The other big part is we did retain a consultant, external counsel for advisement on securities laws, which is advising Attorney General's office and the commission.
Senator?
Okay, last question. The 5.8, the 500,000. Now, is there any private sector component to your budget anticipated so far as you start up? Or is this all on our side for now, or you anticipate rolling in anyone else into this?
Director?
Madam Chairman, Senator Guru, this would be just the state of Wyoming. The concern is if we were to involve, and again, this is not defined, it's still up for discussion, but if we were to involve private industry, there is a concern we'd lose some of the benefits gained by state sovereignty doing this, and doing the instrumentality of the state. So this would be fully the state doing this without any external private relationships.
Thank you, Director. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Great questions, committee. Further questions? All right, seeing none. Any final comments, Director?
Madam Chairman, I would simply like to say thank you. I know, again, we came in for this process a little bit from the outside. It is, again, a unique request. I appreciate the commission making the time to meet with me, speak with me, ask some great questions. There's a lot moving here. I think this is a tremendous opportunity for the state, and I look forward to working with you.
Director Apollo, when did you move to Wyoming?
Myself and my 2 brothers all moved to Cheyenne in September of 2021, Madam Chairman. We moved here because the company that we were building at that time called Rensa, it was a multimedia distribution tool on blockchain. So again, we would tokenize content licenses for video games, movies, comic books, music, what have you. And whenever a consumer bought a piece of media, all the creators would be paid in real time, removing all intermediaries. And it was all transparent, audible, and immediate. So we moved here because of the work that people, candidly like yourself, we're doing in the state. We're in New York, seeing more and more regulations go up that were, difficult to contend with if you were a small, scrappy startup. But we were looking at other states that were putting forth blockchain legislation. It was Texas, Colorado, and Wyoming. We moved here then in September of 2021 and haven't looked back since.
I had to ask. We're glad you're here.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Director. All right. I see there's a number of individuals here who I know have an interest. Treasurer's Office, COO, do you have any comments or anything you'd like to add?
Madam Chairman, Joint Appropriations Committee, my name is Norman LeBlanc. I'm the Chief Operating Officer for the State Treasurer's Office. I have been working together with Director Apollo. The State Treasurer's Office is committed to working in this multi-agency effort and has tasked me to help to support the process and the project as a whole. And I'm excited, as is the Treasurer's Office, to be a part of it and to be in front of you today. Thank you.
All right, any questions for the Treasurer's Office? Representative Larson?
I'm just trying, Madam Chairman, I'm just trying to reflect on the conversation we had maybe a year ago or so on that the ease or difficulties that the Treasurer's Office would have in this whole process. Do you feel like have we got the wrinkles ironed out of that, in your opinion, or was there really nothing there to begin with that was of concern?
Madam Chairman, Representative Larson, I'm not familiar with the conversations that may have happened a year or so ago. I arrived here very much like your public commentator in the last session on May 30th of 2023. But what I would say is that the Stable Token Commission is exploring all opportunities for the support of the reserve management of the stable token. And that includes the outsourcing of the fund accounting, of the fund administration, of the middle and back office, of the calculations of the daily NAVs, the publication of the daily NAVs, and the attestation support. All of those functions, we are surveying the marketplace to determine whether there are appropriate solutions available that can move more quickly and be more efficient and more cost-effective for this particular exercise than the Treasurer's Office.
All right, well, thank you. All right, I see we have folks from the Governor's Office, University of Wyoming, potentially some young blockchain folks. Sure. Sure.
So we heard that Director Apollo is very hopeful that we could start rolling this out in 2024. Do you see anything from the support that the Treasurer's Office would be required to participate in that would not be in place to allow that to happen?
Madam Chairman, Representative Larson, just to be clear, we are examining the possibility of outsourcing those operations, not doing them in-house with the Treasurer's Office. The Treasurer's Office would provide some supervision, but those tasks would be outsourced to parties who do this on a daily basis for very large funds. They have the ability to move quickly, to move resources more rapidly than we can move them, and they can also scale at speed, which is going to be required. Please also note that the tasks here are daily tasks, providing daily net asset values, et cetera, which is not what the Treasurer's Office typically does. And if we were to take the time to initiate new policies, hire new staff, train new staff, et cetera, we might impede the progress of the stable token. And we do not wish to endanger the first public mover advantage that the stable token would have.
All right, additional questions for the folks at the table? Okay, seeing none, thank you so much. Mr. Lupian? Senator Rothfuss, the chairman of the Blockchain Committee, is with us. Representative Stith is a member of Blockchain, as well as I am. Anyone else wish to provide comment on this topic? All right, no more comment shall be taken. Committee, back to you. There's no bill draft, it's a request for an appropriation. I think now we could entertain a motion for an appropriation based on the commission's request. So if the
Madam
committee would-
Chairman, so
Representative Stith?
question for Don, I guess, is where would this go if were the committee to approve it? Would this be a section 300? Would you put it in the state treasurer's office?
Mr.
Do
Richards?
we have a new agency 91? Where would we put it?
Yeah, Mr. Richards?
Madam Chairman, we certainly could put this in a section 300 if there is extensive limitations or directions on the use of the funds. But absent that, they have been created as their own agency, and it would just appear as a table. Hypothetically, if you agreed to $5.8 million, it would be $5.8 million general funds, and any associated limitations or conditions on that appropriation could appear via footnote.
Representative Stith?
So Madam Chairman, just a question about procedure. That's agency 91. I don't know if we want to open up that agency now or if we want to get to it later. So I would move to open up the agency, I guess.
Let's open it up now, just as we're doing it, and just get that checked off the box.
And Madam Chairman, I would move to appropriate in what would probably be Unit 101 of that agency, $5.8 million as requested.
I see that as a motion to open up the agency 91. That motion is approved. And a motion for an appropriation into Unit 101 of Agency 91, which is seconded by Representative Walters. Does everyone understand the motion? Is there, and that's Senator Guru, discussion on the motion?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Give me a second here. I want to be supportive of this, but I also, it's kind of hard. I like my good friend, Representative Larson, I'm having a hard time. A lot of things I don't understand about this and I don't pretend to. So I kind of try to strip it down to the basics. $500,000 ask. They've been moving now for less than a year. We've got one employee. I know we've had startup costs. I know we can't go to, pretty hard to go to HR and say, how do you classify stable token executive director? I don't think we have that in the cheat sheet just yet. So, it's hard to quantify this, but I think we need to get a handle on it somehow. So we know what we're spending and how we're spending on and staff and all that. So that's kind of just a nuts and bolts question. And then the other part for me, I'm trying to get my arms around is 5.8 million. Once again, I don't know anything about this, but you just kind of crank into JAC mode and say, well, okay, if 5.8 is the ask and we get away with 4.5, and is that going to hamstring them to a point? So I guess to you board members here, members that have been involved in this far more than I have, if I could just get from you all, obviously Representative Stith made the motion. So at 5.8, it sounds like he's pretty comfortable with that. Could you explain why? Thanks.
Representative?
Madam Chairman, and I may need, Don has kindly pointed out, though, I may need to modify the motion since in that 5.8 million
275
includes $275,000 as carryover. So the actual new money would be 5.8 million less $275,000 with the authority to carry over 275 of the 500 already appropriated.
Yeah, Representative Stith, I don't know that we know that exact number that was provided to us. I think that was somewhat ballparked. But I do think conceptually, whatever those numbers are, the 5.8 minus the current amount in the account, because they have not expended the 500,000 in total. I think they indicated it's only maybe a couple 100,000 that's been expended. So I know we can get those exact numbers, but we don't know them right now. So I hesitate putting them specifically in the motion, but we understand in concept. Representative,
Madam
is that
Chairman, I
fair?
may need to, clarify that because presumably between now and June 30th, they will spend some of that 275, I would think. So whatever language it takes to make the numbers work out so that they have the 5.8 as of July 1 of 2024 would be the motion.
Just if you could repeat that and a little closer to your mic.
Madam Chairman, it would be my expectation that although the balance in the account as of the time of making the exception request was $275,000, between now and June 30th, the commission may spend some of those funds. So the motion would be so that as of July 1, there's 5.8 million available for the commission.
Mr. Richards, is that acceptable?
Madam Chairman, Representative Stith, I do think I understand your intent is to get on July 1, $5.8 million available. And so the limitation would be on the appropriation of up to 5.8 million and reduced dollar for dollar for any carryover.
Madam Chairman, that's correct.
Representative Stith, thank you. And then so addressing Senator Guru's question of why 5.8, do you have a response to that? Do you need some backup? Representative Stith.
Madam Chairman, I believe in the exception request, essentially more than half of that is in the what I think of as in the 900 series for having an outside vendor actually play the role of Satoshi Nakamoto to create this thing and do all the technical things that need to be done. So that's outsourced, and that's the RFI process and the RFP process that I believe is referred to. But there is 1.5 million in the series 100 for salaries and personnel. And then there are other miscellaneous things as well. IT hardware of $6,000, for example.
All right, further discussion on Representative Stith's motion for the appropriation. All right, seeing none, Co-Chairman Nicholas.
Thank you. So is there a business plan that's been put together? And so what's the likelihood of recapitalizing these funds on your business plan?
I think Representative Stith, that was testified to, and they said.
Madam Chairman, I would refer to, we can call Mr. Apollo up to talk more about that and about the different use cases. So it's obviously a very large market in the aggregate, right? How successful we'll be depends upon how much the consumers of this kind of stable token place trust in the confidence of a public issuer. And that's really the use case as I see it, or the advantage that we have competitively is that we're a sovereign state issuing this, whereas the other alternatives out there are in the private market. It's my understanding, although it wasn't specifically talked to, one of the truly big use cases for this would be if the retailers, including the big box retailers and all our large retailers, who currently pay a lot of money in credit card processing fees, if they were to convince their customers to use a stable token instead, suddenly instead of paying 2% on every transaction, they're now paying almost nothing per transaction. That's a huge potential for that. Whether that will come to fruition, I'm no expert on that, and Mr. Apollo would be the one to talk to about that, I would believe.
So I do recall hearing kind of the business plan. I mean, I heard that being testified to the last hour. I read the letter that was lengthy, and I read the estimated years of return in order to receive the estimated repayment to the general fund as asked by Senator Anderson. Do you want to call the director back up to answer those questions again, Co-Chairman?
No, I was just curious, is there a detailed business plan where you have it all mapped out versus the summaries that we received? And if so, I'd like to see it.
Director, if you could provide the outline of the business plan to the co-chairman, that would be great. Thank you. All right, further discussion on the motion. Representative Henderson?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. You know, there's aspects of this that I'm excited about, support. But when I read intend multiple times, and we've gone about a year, and the good to know we have a business plan. When we have to rely on a lot of this process being dependent upon providers that are contract providers, I'd like to get more solid ground before I support a whole 5.8 from 500 case, you know, going in. So I did ask in my question about the aspect of, you know, fixed costs in terms of, you know, what's the likelihood of what's going to happen really in the next year, given all the unknowns. So I'm going to vote against this, but I would support a smaller number to get through the next year and then come back in the supplemental with more definite information.
Senator Anderson?
Madam Chairman, I am also concerned about the professional services of 3.68. I'm assuming all of that will be out of state because we don't have that kind of expertise in the state. So more than 50% of this request is for out of state assistance. And that seems like kind of a high number. Thank you.
I think it is when you're not evaluating the return. Representative Larson?
But Madam Chairman, how much of that out-of-state resource that we are accessing is available in our state? That oftentimes plays a big part in that. If you can't get it here, you have to go where you can.
Further discussion on the motion? All right, seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Any opposed? Let's do a raise of hands. All those in favor, please raise your hands. All those opposed, please raise your hands. What's that vote count?
Madam Chairman, I got 7-5.
So that motion has passed. Representative Swanitzer.
Madam Chairman, based on our rules of the committee, do we have to have a majority of both sides
Not right now.
when we're looking at a bill?
Not right
Or
now.
is this a budget bill?
Mr. Richards, I'll let that question be answered and then we'll go to Senator Guru.
Madam Chairman, members of the committee, the rules provide for a majority of the combined count of both houses on all amendments and the majority of each house only on final action of a bill.
All right, thank you. Mr. Richards? Representative Swanitzer, do you have an additional question?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chairman. I'm just trying to clarify if we're working on the budget or if we're working on a separate bill. And I assume it's the budget because we put it in an agency number, but I just wanted to clarify that.
That is correct. Senator Guru?
Madam Chair, I was just going to suggest that the good representative would like to bring a rule change. I know the Senate would be more than happy to oblige.
All right, any additional discussion on this agency? We are on Unit 101 of Agency 91. Any additional amendments? All right, all those in favor of Unit 101 as amended of Agency 91, say aye. Any opposed?
No.
All right, that is passed. All those in favor of Agency 91 as amended, please say aye. Any opposed?
No.
All right, so we have just disposed of Agency 91. All right, thank you. Committee, we can move back to doing some of our budget work. There's a couple of small agencies I think we could work through for the next 20 or so minutes before we break for lunch. So we'll go ahead and use that time.
Mr. Chairman, I believe we'll be starting in Agency 81, Board of Parole.
Madam Chairman,
Director?
if you would allow, we can discuss the ETS scenario on page 45. If you'd like to open ETS, we can do that discussion.
Here within the Board of Parole?
I asked if I could go and research that situation in
Oh.
the ETS budget, and I haven't answered.
Please do so. Yeah, that'd be great.
So, Madam Chairman, on page 45, the object code 242 is a one-time, so it doesn't become a standard budget. The agency did not put in a request for one-time funding for that depreciation reserve, but it is necessary that we do have that spending authority for them. This is on page 45 in the ETS's budget depreciation reserve.
So
That's the choice of the committee. I would advise that I check the cash balance currently, and it has $621,000. The amount that the ETS requested last year was $575,500. If there's an adjustment necessary due to the biennium, because this is special revenue, the governor could manage that. So respectfully, the need today, best estimate, 575.
So the governor can handle it, it sounds like, but we
So-
could reopen up the agency. Representative Stith?
Madam Chairman, just a question for Director Hibbard, on how this works and why we need it. For the motor vehicle reserve, depreciation reserve, that's kind of easy to understand. For this one, it's just harder for me because we already replace computers all the time. So what does this money actually do?
Director Hibbard?
Madam Chairman, ETS has some significant, how would I say, costly assets that they use to replace. So they charge for that and it comes in, and then what they do is they use the depreciation reserve, similar to a motor vehicle. We're not talking about a laptop. We're not talking about those things, but the assets that ETS owns, and they use that depreciation reserve to purchase those assets. And that's why it's a one-time request. It's 242. It gets us back into that conversation where all these TRP requests that we have. Unfortunately, ETS did not make the request in this budget. If they had, I think he would have just went smoothly right along. Unfortunately, the ask wasn't there.
Chairman Nicholas?
I'd move to reopen ETS.
All right, it's been moved to reopen. Is there a second? Seconded by Representative Larson. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? All right, Agency 77 is reopened. Enterprise Technology Services Committee. We are on page 45. Co-Chairman Nicholas.
Yeah, I'd move to open Unit 4014. And what's the dollar amount is
575.
Madam Chair, the current cash balance is 621. Their previous biennium request was 575,500.
So what's the number that you need to?
575,500 would be fine, with the understanding if there is a miss to this, it is special revenue and we could manage it through the B11 if that
So
happened.
I would move 575.
575.5.
Is that a one time at this point?
Madam Chairman, I think that this conversation is going to get broader as we work on the 242 TRP. We've had a long conversation about how that TRP is in every single budget. We want to find another methodology. For now, I think one time is fine, but this would be another example for us to come up with a better methodology of TRP.
One time.
Okay, so, and Co-Chairman Nicholas, for clarity, I think for staff, it's 575.5.
Correct.
All right, and that's been seconded by Representative Larson. Further discussion? Everyone understanding the motion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion has passed.
Move to close.
All right, so committee, all those in favor of Unit 4014 as amended, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And committee, all those in favor of Agency 77 Enterprise Technology Services as now amended, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we'll go to Board of Parole, Agency 81.
Members of the committee, the first unit and only unit for this agency appears on page 18, Unit 101 Administration.
Committee, all those in favor of Unit 101 with
Madam
Governor,
Chair?
Representative Walters?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would move to add $23,000 for the purpose of hiring temporary employees for the purpose of archiving, digitizing their archival material.
Second.
That was $23,000, Representative Walters?
Madam Chairman, that is correct, $23,000.
All right, you've heard the motion. For any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any additional motions? All right, all those in favor of Unit 101 with Governor's recommendation and as amended, please say aye. Any opposed? All right, committee, all those in favor of Agency 81, Board of Parole as amended, please say aye. Any opposed?
Madam Chairman, the next agency for your consideration is Agency 85, the Wyoming Business Council. The first unit for your consideration appears on page 25, Unit 101, Wyoming Business Council.
Are there anticipated motions here? Okay, I thought there might be, so.
I have a cleanup.
Let's go ahead, Representative Sherwood.
Madam Chair, thank you. I think we heard during the agency's testimony that they had a typo in their financial request to support the Wyoming Women's Business Center. And so on page 37, this is priority 9. I think we have to carry this over and correct the table, that it would be $355,000 from the general fund.
Are we in Unit 101 on 37? No, we are not. If you'd wait until we get to Unit 201, so hold that. Any motions on Unit 101? Does everyone need a minute or are we good to go? We're good to go. All right. All those in favor of Unit 101 as recommended by the governor, please say aye. Any opposed? All right, Mr. Richards.
The next unit for your consideration appears on page 52, Unit 201, Economic Diversification.
Representative Sherwood.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would make a motion to correct the table in regards to the funding for the Wyoming Women's Business Center, that it would be 355.
All right, let's do that a little slower. You need some backup. What's your motion to correct the table?
Madam Chair, sorry, now I need to get to the right page. On page 37 of the agency's budget request, this is additional support for the Wyoming Women's Business Center, which has a ridiculously high ROI. It's very impressive. So there was a typo. So this was attested to in the agency's presentation to us, that there was a typo, that this request should have been for $355,000. And so I might need some help on where that's at in the table.
Madam Chair.
So yeah, adding the 300.
So we need to add the $300,000 to the table for the Wyoming Women's Business Center in Unit 201.
And it would be 901.
And
Code 901 in Unit 201.
Code 901 in Unit 201. And this is a correction. Is there a second to Representative Sherwood's motion? Seconded by Senator Guru. Discussion on the motion to correct. Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that correction has occurred. Further amendments on Unit 201. Mr. Richards?
Madam Chairman, I think there is a second typo which appears on page 52. Specifically, the ARPA funds should be coded as federal funds. And that appears on the bottom of page 51 for $900,000. I think the agency miscoded ARPA funds, and in fact, those should appear under federal funds.
Thank you, Mr. Richards. Is that moved by Representative Larson? It is seconded by Representative Henderson. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that motion has passed.
Madam Co-Chair.
Co-Chairman Nicholas?
at page 34, Governor's rec is to deny 50 million as submitted. And he's recommending one-time exception request from 12 million from the LSRA. So I would move that we modify that so that the funds come from general funds and not the LSRA.
All right, committee, we're on page 34. Co-chairman, if you could get closer to your mic and repeat that.
Yeah, page 34, Gov's rec, use general funds instead of LSRA funds for the $12 million for funding that unit.
All right, that's been moved and seconded. Does everyone understand the motion? Director Hibbard, can you provide us some feedback as to why the governor chose LSRA as opposed to general funds?
Madam Chairman, I don't know. It was in the recommendations and we posted it as it was asked for. But I don't have an answer why.
All right, thank you. Further discussion on Representative Nicholas's motion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that motion has passed. Any further motions on Unit 201?
Madam Co-Chair,
Representative Nicholas.
on the next unit for priority number 5, Economic Development Laboratory, I would move that to one-time funding and not ongoing. The $2 million.
Moved by Representative Nicholas, seconded by Representative Walters. This moving it from ongoing to one-time funding. Discussion on the motion. Senator Garu. All right, further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that motion has passed. Do we anticipate any other motions? Anything on 201, Unit 201? All right, seeing none, all those in favor of Unit 201 as amended with Governor's rec, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Your next unit for consideration is on page 60, Unit 1610, Business Ready Communities.
All those in favor of Unit 16, Mr.
Madam
Richards?
Chairman, I think there is an amendment on this.
I almost meant. Representative Walters?
Thank you, Madam Chairman, excuse me. I would move, and this is on page 59, it'll show up in the table on the next page. But I would move to make this governor's rec of 8 million currently with LSRA funds. I would make that general funds.
Second.
Madam Chair.
Representative Larson?
I would just suggest a friendly amendment. We approve 30 million in general funds. Maybe we just adopt that general fund and not appropriate the 8 million out of LSRA.
Madam Chairman, I will withdraw my motion and second the motion my good representative just made.
Excellent work. All right, you've heard, does everyone understand the motion of Representative Larson? Everyone understand the motion? Further discussion, Mr. Richards?
Apologies, I think I'm the one falling behind here, is that you're basically reducing it by 8 million LSRA. Thank you.
Right.
Period.
Representative Stitt?
No question.
Okay, all those, Senator Garu?
Not an against. I know it's difficult because, we just made a $5.8 million comeback on a stable token. And I know we're going to talk this afternoon about a lot of exciting proposals at the University of Wyoming for economic development as well. But I'd resist this motion because I think that I know the ask was heavy at 150, and I think the governor was right in reducing it. But I think 38, is 38 is a fair number, and I think that they'll need that number going forward to do the work they're doing. So I just say leave it at 38 and go with the Gov's rec, although moving around to general funds, I think was a smart idea. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Senator. Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor of Representative Larson's motion to reduce the funding of $8 million of the LSRA to zero, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that motion. Let's raise your hands. All those in favor of Representative Larson's motion to reduce it to 0, please raise your hands. I'm counting. All right, and all those opposed, please raise your hands. Senate's the big spenders today. All right, that motion has passed. All right, any additional motions on Unit 1610?
Madam Chair,
Representative Stitt?
I just had a question for Don on this unit. I just had a note that there was initially some kind of concern about double spending out of funds, and I didn't know if that had already been resolved or not, or if my notes are just wrong.
Mr. Richards?
Madam Chairman, Representative Stiff, there is an issue and it appears on page 60 S4, that $8 million. However, it might be best to address that issue in the governor's letter because he is modifying his recommendation on this. So it might be best to address it there.
Should we put a pin in it? We'll put a pin in it. Good catch, Representative Stiff. All right, we're still on Unit 1610. Further discussion on 1610. All right, all those in favor of Unit 1610 as amended with Governor's Rec, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Members,
Madam Chairman,
Representative Stiff.
at the risk of, and this may have already been dealt with, but back on Unit 201, I didn't know if we'd already dealt with the Asia Pacific Trade Office on page 46, 47. If I don't, and if not, I'd like to move to reopen Unit 201 and move to add $429,000 to fund the Asia Pacific Trade Office.
Did we deal with that, Mr. Richards?
Madam Chair, I didn't hear that. Could you repeat that?
Yeah, we're going to break for lunch because we're all getting quiet and tired. Representative
Madam
Stiff.
Chairman, if it's not been previously dealt with in Unit 201, it's on pages 46 and 47 of the budget book. I would move to add $429,000 to fund the Asia Pacific Trade Office. That was a request that the governor had denied.
All right, so Representative Stiff has moved to reopen Unit 201. Is there a second? Seconded by Senator Guru. All those in favor to reopen Unit 201, say aye. Any opposed?
No.
Unit 201 is reopened. Representative Stiff, you have a motion concerning the Taiwan Asia Pacific Trade Office.
Yes, that motion is to add $429,000 to Unit 201 for the purposes of the Asia Pacific Trade Office.
Is that one time?
That is one time.
And is there a second? Seconded by Co-Chairman Nicholas. Discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. That motion has passed. Any additional amendments on Unit 201? Representative Stitt?
Madam Chairman, I don't know if this is the appropriate unit, but it is interesting to me in this agency that the State Small Business Credit Initiative, which has about $56 million in it, that money that they're authorized to spend or that they are spending doesn't show up in this agency anywhere. And so I don't know what unit it's appropriate to put it in, but to me, it seems like as a matter of legislative practice that we should, if they're going to be spending money, whether it's, these are all federal funds, of course, that we should someplace in the budget have a vote on authorizing them to do so.
Mr. Richards, do you have any thoughts about how to solve that concern?
Madam Chairman, I would concur that it is the preferred practice to appropriate funds and that funds that are not appropriated are subject only to the executive oversight in the B11 process. I think your motion is appropriate. The challenge we have is right now we don't know the amount because it isn't reported, but we could reach out to them and you could direct us to put in the balance of their existing grant or their annual or biennial amount.
So moved.
Representative Larson, is there a second? Seconded by Representative Larson. Discussion, Representative Larson.
So Dawn, this would be similar moving forward, that it's just authorization to use an amount of funds, and what you're going to try to determine is what that amount is for authorization, realizing that that could change down, be less than that, and if anything over that, then would require a B11.
Mr. Richards?
Madam Chairman, Representative Larson, that is correct. One question to Representative Stiff, if you could clarify the specific program again, was it the SBIR or?
It is the State Small Business Credit Initiative run by the United States Treasury Department, and they've allocated approximately $56 million to this agency that we don't ever talk about.
All those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? That motion has passed. We're on Unit 201 still. We've come back twice. Any additional amendments on Unit 201? All right, seeing none. All those in favor of Unit 201 as amended, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, committee, we are on, I think, Unit 1620. Any amendments on 1620? That's on page 61. All right, all those in favor of Unit 1620 with Governor's recommendation, please say aye. Any opposed? All right, anything on the agency in total? Representative Walters?
I've been gung ho for a while. Thank you, Madam Chairman. I would make a motion for a footnote in this agency stating that they will request all of their make all of their TRP requests be an exemption request or another manner if we change how we do a TRP for exemption requests.
Seconded by Representative Henderson. Discussion on the motion. Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed, say no. That motion has passed. The Senate's not voting. Any additional motions? Going once, going twice? All right, all those in favor of Agency 85, Wyoming Business Council as amended, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, with that committee, we will break for lunch and come back at 1 o'clock and we will have the ARPA discussion with the governor's office. Meeting is recessed for lunch.